All right, I think we're ready to get this party started. If everyone could take their seats. I will now call the Budget Committee meeting to order and request Claudia to do roll call.
Committee Member Mon.
Present.
Councillor Geary.
Good evening.
Committee Member Frost. Give me 1 second. She's online now. Committee Member Frost, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
Here.
Committee Member Ernst.
Here.
Councillor Tukolsky.
Present.
Committee Member Chisholm.
Here.
Councillor Chenoweth.
Here.
Committee Member Harmon Ferry. Councillor Benner.
Here.
Committee Member Hunter. Council President Peralta.
Here.
Mayor Morris.
Here.
Chair Maxfield.
Here. We will be continuing to hear department budget presentations this evening. I ask the members of our committee to hold their questions until the end of the presentations, as there will be time at the end for questions and discussion. I will now turn the time over to City Manager Garvin.
Thank you, Chair Maxfield. This evening, we have some department presentations. Before we get going on those, I did want to call your attention to a packet put in front of you that has all your public comment that occurred before 5 p.m. today. So be sure you're up to date on that before deliberations later this evening. And first up this evening, we have Cord with the police department's budget.
Good evening. I guess let me know when you guys are ready for me to start talking. You ready?
Yes, ready.
All right. So I'm Cord Wood. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of McMinnville, and we're going to talk about the police department's portion of the budget this evening. Start with a little recap regarding the core services that we discuss in the budget and what those parts of the department represent. Sorry. We're going to begin with field operations. So this is the largest part of the police department's workforce. Their primary function is to respond to emergency and non-emergency calls for service. They're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, taking both emergency and non-emergency calls for service. They take initial and do follow-up investigative work. They respond to traffic collisions and at least do the initial, if not the complete, serious traffic crash investigation, such as a fatal traffic collision. On average, the department answers between 19 and 20,000 calls for service from the community. We take about 3,800, just a few under 4,000 case numbers per year. We've managed to maintain a response time around 5 minutes from the initial receipt of a 911 call to our arrival on scene. So response times vary as you look at things across the state, or across the country even, because there's a variety of reasons, but one simple factor that influences it is just geography. You know, we're a fairly compact city. We're not spread out like a Los Angeles or another large metropolitan area. 5 minutes, while it's a respectable response time to an emergency calls for service. Now, if you're waiting 5 minutes for the arrival of your emergency response, that can seem like a very, very long time. In 2025, our overall crashes were down a little bit, and our traffic enforcement for the same period was up. So we're seeing a positive response in traffic enforcement, and its result in crashes. The next core service and element of the department we're going to talk about is the Investigations and Support Services Division. So this is our detective unit, is what people primarily think of when they think of Investigations and Support Service. They perform our major criminal events and complex investigations. They're the primary investigators for issues like, think of the big 7 crimes: rape, robbery, murder, kidnapping, and those kind of offense, but other things that are complex or require significant amounts of follow-up fall to this unit. And for those who have been, watching the news register over the last few weeks, a great example of some work that falls to this unit was the incident that we had out at Joe Dancer Park, where we wound up, arresting a number of young men for a variety of assault, riot, and other related criminal offenses. That work fell primarily after the initial response on the investigative unit. One of the other elements of the Investigative and Support Services unit that people don't commonly think of is our evidence unit. Our evidence technician, we have one, is responsible for the maintenance of all of our physical items of evidence, all of our digital evidence entries. She's also responsible for the intake and disposal of things like illicit drugs, pharmaceuticals, biohazards. In 2025 alone, she took in 2,693 pieces of physical property, physical items. She took in 7,268 digital pieces of evidence. She disposed of 975 pounds of prescription drugs, just under 2,000 pounds of illegal drugs, paraphernalia, and biohazards. We currently in inventory at MacPD have 13,064 individual items of evidence that she's required and responsible for maintaining, cataloging, transporting, sending off to the crime lab, all of those things. She's also maintaining 28,371 digital pieces of evidence currently in our inventory. Also part of this portion of the department, our school resource officer, we are down to 1 school resource officer after last year's budget cycle. He is part of this part of the house. He also is primarily responsible for just the high school. Sometimes things cause him to bleed out beyond the high school, but primarily a high school SRO. And our parking enforcement officer also is out of this side of the police department. Our professional standards unit is responsible for our maintenance and internal controls. So our accreditation maintenance takes quite a bit of care and feeding. So we were recently reaccredited by the Northwest Accreditation Alliance in 2025. We'll be accredited by them through September of 2028 when we're due for our next accreditation visit from NWAA. The proofs and the maintenance of the files that prove to the NWAA that we not only have policies that meet best practices, but that we follow those policies, it takes quite a bit of work, care and feeding to maintain that, and it's essential to keeping us on track and ensure that we're not only using best practices, but that we're meeting the standards that we say we're meeting. So we'll talk about the proposed budget that's in front of you from the police department. This budget is to maintain our current core services. This is not a building or growth year from the police department. There's only a minor difference, a little over $145,000 difference between what is in this year's budget compared to what was in last year's budget. The department has made a significant effort to look for efficiencies, reduce expenditures, and improve our operational efficiencies where we can to save money. We have an ongoing RMS conversion project. Our current RMS system is more than 20 years old. It's 20-plus years old, which I have never seen another agency operating with an RMS system of that age in my time as a law enforcement officer. No other agency that I have ever been a part of has operated with a 20-plus year old RMS system. That project is scheduled to be completed somewhere in the next 6 to 9 months, and Director Burke may talk about that a little bit during his presentation as well. So elimination, we took a very hard look at what we had, eliminated unnecessary expenditures. We had an RV lot that we rented to store abandoned and zombie RVs that the department came across. We found an opportunity to store those for free on property that the city already owns after a tenant that had occupied a piece of city property left that property. We've eliminated redundant softwares. We've also had finance charges from a radio project that the city financed in 2019. Those finance charges came off this year, saving the city just under $40,000 a year. One of the biggest things that we've done to try and control costs is migrate our deployment model. Currently, we work a 12-hour, 4-day on, 4-day off work week with our patrol staff. It's inefficient, and we have developed a new model that reshuffles the resources, trying to make the best use of the resources that we have so that we can cover the busiest parts of the day with more people and cover the less busy parts of the day with fewer people. It reduces overtime. It increases wellness and training time for officers. Like I said, it redistributes our resources during peak demand times. It also uses a slightly different dispatching approach, letting first-line supervisors decide what is important to be handled now and what can pend so that they can control those moments so that we don't reach saturation points of more calls than we have people to respond to them. It also, and I don't want to miss this point, it also offsets some of the significant cost increases that we would have incurred under the last collective bargaining agreement that we would see if we stayed on the 12-hour schedule. Like I said, this model maintains our current staffing FTE levels at 40 sworn positions across the department. We're asking for no increases in sworn or non-sworn staffing in the department. Last budget cycle, we were reduced from 43 to 40, the current 40 positions, losing 1 detective, 1 police officer, and our middle school SRO. Okay. So we're seeking to provide similar to current responses to crime, traffic enforcement, and public safety. This budget only requests to purchase essential equipment. We have asked to replace 2 vehicles in this current budget year, or this coming budget year. We really need to replace some portions of our fleet that have excessive miles and maintenance and repair issues. We have, over the past year, in addition to looking at our deployment model, developed a more standardized fleet management program. And again, the focus of that is to reduce repair costs, reduce downtime, and get the most out of those assets that you provide us with vehicles so that when you call 911, I can show up at your door from start to finish because I didn't break down somewhere in between. The only enhancements that appear in this year's budget are grant-funded enhancements, mostly grant-funded enhancements. The first is a bike patrol program. The police department received a $25,000 grant from Visit McMinnville and McMinnville Industrial Promotions to launch a bike patrol program, which is going to cover the cost of the purchase of the equipment, the bicycles, uniforms, the ancillary equipment that it comes with riding a bicycle. Also provide us some dollars to put officers out on patrol on those bicycles to do operations, whether those are attached to events or community crime problems. It's available for both of those aspects of it. And we're excited about the ability to get out of the car, get face-to-face with the community, and address some of those livability issues that are more easily addressed when you slow down the pace and reach places in the city that you can't commonly reach from your radio car. The other grant-funded enhancement that you'll see in your budget, there's a small enhancement for some equipment related to tasers. We were very fortunate that the Oregon State Police donated enough taser equipment to us so that each officer could have individually issued tasers that we weren't able to provide. We had a pool of tasers that we would share in the past, and it worked up until the point that we had enough people at work that we ran out of tasers. So now we have enough with a small investment for some batteries and that make them, they're the brains of the taser device, to make that available to every one of our staff so that we don't run the risk of running out. The budget also includes the baseline needs for our M&S and equipment needs, but those are going to be basically what you would have seen in the 25-26 budget ask. We aren't looking for significant enhancements. Our plan is to make the most of those dollars. We're going to focus on those baseline equipment needs that we need for our ongoing service delivery mandatory training. We're going to also focus some of our training this year on FEMA training for our new and existing supervisors, especially with the expectation that Public Works and the Police Department take on a greater role of emergency management in the coming budget cycle. Major crimes, we have new faces in major crimes, and we going to have to invest a little bit of money in getting them up to speed and ready to respond to the calls for service that you have. And we're going to focus on our PTO and ongoing, or PTO, which is our Police Training Officer Program, which trains new staff as they come in the door, and our ongoing maintenance training that we are required to do by DPSST. As I've said previously, service levels will be similar to those in the previous year. Like we discussed in the last budget cycle, those things that the department has done in the past that I don't think we're going to be able to field in this budget year, like dedicated drug enforcement, increasing our SRO presence back to the middle school. We're not going to be able to return to staffing our reserve program because our time and effort needs to be expended on filling police officer positions, not volunteer positions. Just recap, current focus and the big area concerns that this budget is focusing on and seeking to address: recruitment and retention of our current personnel and filling of vacancies that we currently have. I have a goal, and the command staff and I share this goal, to fill these vacancies by the end of the calendar year. I believe we can achieve that goal. We've got significant momentum in the hiring of new officers since October, and I think we can continue that momentum into filling these vacancies in relatively short order. I know that December seems like it's a long ways away, but it's not a long ways away in many respects. I'm going to switch gears on you for just a moment from the current general fund to the Fund 15 portion of your should start on page 363 of your printed handout. So this fund is there to track expenditures for our dispatching services through YCOM. This is how the city funds its membership dues to YCOM with the county. In the current 26-27 budget in front of you, the city budgeted for an increase to YCOM services of 10%. Over the past several years, the average increases have been in the neighborhood of 8 to 12%. So we kind of split that with a 10% estimate for what we were going to spend over the next budget year. Last week on May 12th, the Budget Committee for YCOM met and approved an 18% increase to the membership dues for YCOM services to the executive board for YCOM, which is yet to meet to approve this. The resulting difference is roughly $53,000 and change. To fund this unanticipated expense, it would be my intention to not fill one position for a period of about 4 months. So it would be sometime about November that position would be available to be filled, using that savings to cover the unanticipated cost of an extra 8% to our YCOM dues for the 26-27 budget cycle. And that's the end of my slides. If anybody has questions, I would.
So there's one more slide in public safety. Municipal court also falls under public safety.
Want Court to answer PD questions before we get into court?
We can do that.
All right, any questions or comments for Chief Wood? Counselor Benner?
Thank you, Chief Wood. Can you use the term RMS?
So no worries. RMS means a records management system. So if you think about all of the police reports and related supplementary documents that go with a police report, our citations, our crash reports, all of those basically reports and pieces of paper that the police department generates into a document to send to a court or keep on file at the police department, that's our records management system.
Thank you. And then two that'll combine, the 4 on, 4 off is going away, new schedules. Can you just give another quick summary of that? And then why is YCOM going up 18%?
Okay, I'll start with the schedule question. So yes, 4 on, 4 off, it's a rotating schedule through days, and then every 112 days, they rotate between a day shift and a night shift. The new model is based on a 4-10 schedule. So they work 4 days on, 3 days off with a common overlap day. That common overlap day allows us to accomplish things that on the 4 on, 4 off schedule, we can't accomplish. Any extra things that we want to do, like if we need to do in-service training or something along those lines, we can't accomplish that without having our staff come in on an extra day and paying them overtime to do it. With the common overlap day, we actually get everybody there on a common day that can become our training day. It can become our operation day. It also builds an overlap between the schedules. One of the common failings of a 12-hour schedule is that there is no overlap between the shifts. So if you take a call for service at hour 11 3/4, you're probably going to be here for 13 or 14 hours. Whereas with a 10-hour model, there are overlaps between day shift and swing shift and night shift, so that if it's day shift at 2 o'clock, swing shift is coming on, they can assume primary call for service responsibilities, and the day shift can then either continue to go out and take calls, or they have the opportunity to come in and work on their paperwork, catch up on their reports, do their training, other things that we would potentially pay overtime for them to accomplish.
And you have a question about YCOM, right?
The increase to the YCOM budget was primarily based on the reintroduction of 2 dispatcher positions and 1 dispatch supervisor position back into the budget for the next fiscal year.
Mayor Morris?
Just a couple questions. On the page 166, there's professional services, and it's temp services for elimination of the special projects manager. Is that Jody Christensen or a different special projects manager?
On page 160.
166.
In my printed
Oh,
version, the
wait a
police
minute.
budget doesn't start until page
Wait a minute.
69.
I went after it. Sorry. Never mind on that.
Okay.
Let's go back to the shift change.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it also the change of the shift, I guess, what do I want to say? We've had concerns from the police officers for years in regards to morale and being overworked. So does the change in shifts address that issue?
Yeah, I believe it does. So, like I said, one of the things that we, right off the top, there's a difference of 104 hours annually in the number of hours they work on a 12-hour shift compared to a 10. They work 104 hours less every year on a 10-hour shift. They have opportunities with the shift overlaps to use those for catching up on police reports and other work. They're working 2 hours a day less than
Okay.
they would normally be under current circumstances. We have more officers on during our more peak demand hours, which helps share the workload a little bit during peak demand hours. It provides them opportunities to go work on projects and enforcement activities that it is more difficult to do with no overlap.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure. I think that's an important part to share with
Give-
that change.
It gives them a better opportunity to use their wellness time. There's lots of benefits to the overlapping schedule over what we're currently doing.
Thank you.
Cord, could I just add a couple of things that are really important from that perspective? This schedule change also allows them to have a set schedule so they can bid for the entire year and know what their schedule will be for the year, and also provides them with a guaranteed weekend day off no matter what shift they're on.
Yes, that's true.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Can you remind me where we are currently, including what's in the pipeline on vacancies?
Yes. So the department currently has 6 vacancies. I have 3 people who are currently in the background phase of the hiring process. So police hiring processes have multiple phases, multiple interview phases, but once you reach the background phase, you are a significant portion into the process. And it's probably the most If you pass the background phase, there's a high probability that you're going to be successful in the process. Now, not everybody is. I can't guarantee that if you're successful there, that you'll be successful in the remaining portions of it, because we could find out during the medical examination that you are significantly colorblind and can't pass the state standards for police officer employment. But it's a significant portion into the process, and we've made a significant investment in getting those people to that part of the process.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking that question is I would think that that's probably the biggest thing we need to do to provide, make it to where our police officers are not as overworked as they've been, is get those 6 filled. And I'm glad to hear that your number one priority is going to be to get those filled.
I have a few questions concerning vacancies. It's my understanding that the police department has had rotating vacancies open for a number of years. Therefore, we have a pattern of budgeting for more personnel expenses in the police department than we actually incur. And so I don't know if you know this or if Director Henry knows this, but when was the last time our police department's personnel budget closely matched the actual expenses?
Do you want to handle the expense part? I can handle the people side of that.
I'll have to find those answers. I had sent them to you, but if you don't
I
have.
have the answer.
Okay.
If you want me to take it.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
It looks like 2016, the department spent up to 1.2% of their budgeted allowance for that year. So that's a very thin margin at year end. It looks like since then we've stayed around the 5% mark. This year we're going to come in a little bit higher than that at around 12.
Okay, thank you. And then over the last few years, what's the lowest number of vacancies the police department has had at any given time?
In FY 2022, we were fully staffed for a period of months, long enough for the department to actually create, I may get the acronym wrong. It was, I think, CRU. Sorry, it was before my time. I think it stood for Community Response Unit. But basically, it was a unit that was developed to address some of the more significant issues that we were seeing in McMinnville with camping post-COVID. And that was together for a few months, and then we lost some people and ultimately had to pull those people back. But 2022 was the most recent example of when we were at capacity.
And then I wondered, I don't know how specific we have to be with budgeting. Can we post positions even if for 6 positions, even if we only budget for 5, and if enough people get close enough in the pipeline, we have a supplemental budget? Because I hear you, it sounds like you've worked really hard, and it seems like if we could get those 6 positions, I would support that. But it seems if we're over budgeting, and we know if we open the pool, it will be utilized. If we budget for it, it'll be open and used. Is that possible? I don't know if, does that make sense? I don't know how specific when we're budgeting, how specific we have to be when we're spending.
Really, that's a question for the budget officer, because it's more of a policy decision than it is a can we. We can do anything. I mean, but should we and will we? No. So I really think Adam needs to answer that question.
So the issue with taking that approach is that you would have to notice that position is if authorized by council. So who's going to actually apply for that position knowing that it might not be authorized by the budget committee and council would be the issue.
Okay, thank you. Are there more questions? Counselor Geary?
Go ahead, sir.
Did you want to add anything?
Well, I was going to say, one thing I would add to posting positions in that manner is that's going to introduce a matter of instability into our process that doesn't exist today.
Okay.
I used to work for a chief of police, and while he and I didn't agree on everything, he did say something that has resonated with me for the remainder of my career. And his take on it is that if you're not in control of the money, you're not in control of the department. But he wasn't specifically talking just about the money when he talked about that. What he was talking about is if you don't control aspects like that in your organization, you're introducing a level of stress, anxiety, and in some ways chaos for people who are currently currently in the organization, and for people who are looking at it from the outside. And I think if we advertised our position, especially when we're trying so hard to target lateral certified police officers and get them in the door, they would see that, and we wouldn't get their application. And I can give you a great example of that. Last year, when we were looking at budget cuts, we had a lateral officer who applied with us that we were really excited about getting on board. And then he was unfortunately applying and interviewing right about the time that the news about our budget last year broke. And of course, he was doing his due diligence, and he saw that, and he made his decision that that wasn't the time to apply with the city of McMinnville because of the uncertainty that surrounded that. He wasn't going to uproot himself from California, move his family, 1,800 miles to McMinnville, Oregon, with that level of uncertainty hanging over the positions. Recently, he's returned to us, seeing the progress that we have made in hiring people, and he's currently in our process in one of the background positions that I spoke about, because the stability, we're showing him that we're trying to provide that stability, and this is the place he wants to come and bring his family and live and work.
Thank you. Councilor Geary?
Thank you. I have a kind of a line item question and then a little bit larger program year-over-year question. The line item question is on 185, page 185 paper, page 185. So it'd be section 43, field operations, program 553 patrol. There's 7,000-15. The extra help police officer 0.6, just what is that?
Yes, so we currently employ a retired officer from MacPD, Robert Harmon. He's also our court bailiff here in the city. So we, because of our staffing levels, have gotten Robert to come back, and he fills some time with us. I'm all about scoring the touchdown. So that's what that is. That's to fund the extra hours for him to come back and do some shifts and work some hours in patrol for the PD.
Very good, thank you. And then I know this isn't like a dumping a ton of money in drones budget, but I know we have some drone activity and there's a few dollars in, but so just wondering at the budget stage as we think about that and moving forward, what are our current drone related programs, and if we were going to take another step as the years come in drone related programs, where do you see that going for the city of McMinnville?
We currently have a couple of drones and a couple of different types of drones with different purposes in our inventory. We have larger drones meant for deployment for outside operations that can range the gamut from a missing kid, a search and rescue, a search warrant, those or similar related activities. We also have smaller drones that are designed for the search of an interior of a building. That you can use in certain circumstances, that you don't have to put a person in harm's way to find a person or item or something dangerous within a building. We just updated the training of our drone operators so that we're keeping them current, because it's a constantly evolving case law, legislative updates. There's a constant evolution of the rules and regulations that are surrounding that. If we were to expand that into the future, and we could defer to Captain Bressler, because the drone program is his baby, but I think one of the ways that we could potentially include drones in the PD's work in the future is if we were to get to the point where we are not only deploying the traffic enforcement position again, but making that person the primary responsibility for serious traffic collisions. From my time with OSP, I will tell you that those drones in major traffic collision investigations and outdoor crime scene investigations, when I was doing major crimes with the state police, those are a significant force multiplier. You can document a scene, a crash, in fractions of the time that you can by doing a hand sketch or the old school ways that we used to do that. So I would say that's one area that we could, in the future, find a use for drone deployment.
And there were some federal regulations recently that altered what you can and can't purchase. Would that affect our sort of current inventory, future inventory?
I don't think it will affect our current inventory. It could affect our future inventory. But we would, make those decisions with that information, armed with that information.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Committee Member Chisholm.
Thank you for all your hard work in your department. So at this time last year, how many officers were we hiring for?
I don't know if I can tell you exactly. Apparently it's my turn. I don't know if I can tell you exactly where we were at this point in the process last year. And the difference between this year and last year too is when we started the process, the city had held 3 positions vacant, and they were being held vacant when I arrived and took over as chief. So that's a significant difference. But beyond those, I don't remember where we were total staffing wise at that moment compared to now.
I feel like it was similar to where we are now, maybe not exact. It was exact. So, but I know you've hired. So where'd the other police officers go?
We had 2 30-year employees leave the organization, which is going to happen. I don't think we can expect people who have worked beyond 30 years to be with us for forever. 2 of the recruits that we hired weren't successful in the training portion of their program. We had 1 officer leave to go to his, he left to go out of state because he liked the way that law enforcement was done in the other state compared to the way policy decisions at the state level and stuff are impacting law enforcement in Oregon. And then I think we had 1 other officer leave to go back to the agency that he started with.
The reason I ask that is just because retention seems like it was a word that you mentioned earlier and something that may be a bit of a struggle. And I'm just wondering if the change in the schedule, do you see that some positive coming from that?
I certainly do. I think there's a lot of positives for retention in that schedule. I would also say that it's not every year that I'm going to have 2 30-year employees retire. If we hadn't had that, we're talking about a difference of 4 positions instead of 6. I mean, so we've had some unique things this current year. We don't have that every year. I'm very short on 30-year employees at the moment.
Court, I could add to that a little bit. Part of the reason for the schedule change was directly due to a survey that we provided to the police department employees. So we took the feedback from that survey, and that was part of the what led us to the schedule change. So some of the things that they said that they really want are special assignments. So those are the things like the chief was talking about, like the motor position. We were just talking about drones. So just being able to do some of those things, which this schedule allows for. And then as the mayor was talking about, they had a lot of concerns about being overworked. So with this schedule change, this allows them automatically to work 104 hours less a year, but also provides them with time to do their report writing during their shift because of the overlap, which many times they were coming in doing on overtime or they were just behind on their report writing. So this really addressed a lot of their concerns from that survey.
Counselor Peralta?
Thank you, Chair Maxfield. Chair Maxfield asked the main questions that I had, which all related to staffing. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that I really appreciate your attention to detail and the work that you've done to change the administration of your force to be more cost effective and also hopefully meet those employee needs. I think it was a big lift, and I think everybody on this board really appreciates it. Thank you.
Counselor Tukolsky?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chief Wood, thank you for being here tonight. I had 3 questions, and 2 of them are line item questions. The first one is not. This past weekend, I saw that there were 2 barricade sets at the Alien Days, and it was my understanding that we only allocated for one of those.
Correct?
Could you explain?
We borrowed from a neighboring agency to get the extra barricades.
Okay, all right. Was that part of the original agreement? I just missed it, or
I'm not sure what you mean by original agreement.
was that brought to council that we were going to borrow if we didn't purchase?
I believe that was discussed during the discussion around the ARPA funds. Purchasing one set of barricades isn't sufficient to do everything that we need. We were fortunate. We're not always going to get the mutual aid response from the other agency when we need those barricades, because there's going to be times when they're going to have them deployed during their operations, their needs.
That makes sense.
We were just fortunate in this circumstance that they were available.
Are we keeping those on site in McMinnville, or are they going to just be at the other agency if we're not using them? Whoever had them last?
We're storing our barricades here. I don't know exactly where they store their barricades. We're not storing them for them.
Okay, just curious, thank you. The other question I had was on paper page 186, line number 7720-14. It talks about PD car washes, and in the past, I know that we've not had PD car washes in the budget. We've had the wash bay where the officers are washing their cars. Mm-hmm. I did see one of these vehicles in the new car wash down by the New Burger King. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd like to know how much we're paying for those car washes.
I believe what you see on the page is what we're paying annually for the car washes. It's not like there's an unlimited number. They get to take their car through once a week, and if you pencil out what we were spending for the supplies to do it ourselves compared to what we're doing here, it's not a significant lift.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was every day or if it was...
No,
okay.
No, it's not every day.
All right, because that would be expensive.
Yes, it would, and it's not every day.
Okay, thank you. The last question I had is on page 188, line number 7000-15. There is a field operation for reserves. You just stated that we're not hiring or utilizing reserves, and I do know that reserves are also not paid. They're a volunteer position, but there was an ad in there from 0 in 2025 to 20,453 in 2026, 27.
We have paid reserves in the past for hours that they work in 2 different aspects. We have paid them for their time to come in and testify in court appearances. And then prior to my arrival in 2025, we were paying reserve officers for hours that they worked to come in and take calls for service as part of their reserve responsibilities. Sure. I still have 1 reserve officer on my books as of today. I'm just not adding to it. So those funds are there to pay for that person's time should I need it.
Okay, got it. And is that reserve, is that Officer Harmon, or is it?
No.
Okay.
That's you.
I didn't mean to bring that out. I'm not getting paid for that. So yeah, I saw that in there. So thank you.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I could just make a clarifying answer to your question, Dan, or Councilor Tukolsky. This is not to be an advertisement or considered to be an advertisement. I hold no stock in the company. However, the cost for a car wash is a monthly fee that they charge down there. The pricing that I saw was between $29.95 and $49.95 a month per vehicle. I would imagine in a fleet rate, you get a better deal. And it's literally unlimited in a month. You can drive through there as often as you would like. So it could be daily and it wouldn't change the price.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I think we will move to the municipal court, unless you have an additional comment.
I had one additional comment, and I just wanted to make sure it's not lost in the discussion about the shift from shift to the new shift, to the new 10-hour shift. It requires a certain number of positions to make it work. And if we dip below that number, it doesn't work.
What number is that?
I need 30 people in patrol. With 40 positions, I have 30 people in patrol to make that work over the long term. Will there be moments where we can dip below that? Absolutely, sure. That happens because people have babies, people get hurt. All those kind of things happen in a law enforcement staffing. But I need to maintain those 40 positions to make that work over the long term. If it doesn't work, the savings that we see from shifting to that model go away from us because we have to go back to the 12-hour model, and all of those savings go away too.
Thank you.
Okay, so the other side of public safety is the municipal court. And this is very, very brief overview because we did a lot of work with municipal court last year. Appreciate everything that the budget committee did and council in getting some things added back into court. So we are now fully staffed. It is still a small staff. I mean, we have four people in court, but it is fully staffed for the positions that we do have. And we are now implementing the budget software. That is going significantly slower than we had hoped, mainly due to the software side of things and not to our side. We have been ready. But that will be the only main project this coming year. Any extra time that we have is being spent going over records and getting all of those into the new system, because besides just having it be able to process new activity, we're also getting the older court records into the system. So what time the court staff has, they don't have much extra time, but if we have a down half hour or something like that, we have them going through files and going through older records and working on that. So that's just going to be really the strong focus for this year, is getting that software up and running and all of the past files in, and focusing on training and getting that going. And with police not looking to expand this year, we don't anticipate court expanding either. So just a status quo on the staffing for right now and improve operations. And they are open 7:30 to 5:30, 4 days a week right now. So they are maintaining those hours, those longer hours than they were last year. And that's literally all I have for you. The slight increase you'll see in materials and services is that implementation cost on the software, the increased software cost.
Does anybody have any questions for municipal court? Counselor Tukalski?
Yeah, I'll try to make this one not awkward like the last one. So last year, I think we added a clerk. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How's that going? Could you talk about that?
It's going well. We hired shortly after July, when we got the budget approved. And she has been in training, so she's still in training. And I'm saying that and counting the months and trying to figure out, there must have been a delay somewhat after July. But it has been going very well. She's gradually increasing what she is covering. It really helps in order to cover the 7:30 to 5:30 to be able to have those extra people. And we're looking to this coming year be able to bring finance fully back into finance because municipal court will likely be able to cover the front desk even on court days because of the additional personnel. So this year so far, we're still covering the front desk on Wednesdays while all of the training is happening over in the courtroom. But the hope is that with the 4 positions, we'll be able to move finance off of that. And that is reflected in the budget and in the spread in personnel for this coming year.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Oh, sorry, Counselor Cunningham.
Yeah, sorry, because the comment from the chief was right at the end of his comment, so I'm just gonna pop back on with the chief for a moment here. I just want to get a little bit of clarification on that last statement that you said that you needed 40 officers for patrol, and including yourself, I count 39.
If you look at the current allotment from the PD, so from myself to the very bottom, there are 40 sworn positions. Last year, when we started this process, we had 43. One of those was, 3 of those were eliminated, bringing us down to 40. We eliminated a detective position. We eliminated a middle school SRO position, and we eliminated 1 patrol position.
So maybe I'm missing a little bit, but the like support services specialist, that's not sworn.
That's not a sworn position.
Evidence technician, is that sworn?
Not a sworn position.
Oh, wait, I did miss one there.
The current SRO position in an FTE count on your document may not count as a full position because funding for it is split between the city and the school district. So it may not register on your FTE count as a full position.
No, it's there as a full position. So, but no, it looks like I just went back through. It looks like I missed one in field operations. So
We have 40 sworn positions.
So 40 sworn positions, not
Correct.
necessarily patrol-specific positions.
Right, that's from myself through the patrol division of the department. That is everybody with a badge at MPD.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right, I'll turn it back over to Manager Garvin.
Thank you, Chair Maxfield. Next up, we have the administration part of the budget, which starts on page 99 of your paper copy. So first part of the administration budget, city manager's office. Claudia and I went through this budget and council's budget with a fine tooth comb and found areas that we could make small adjustments for some cost savings. Reductions were made in discretionary operating expenses while maintaining core service values and to make sure that we could still operate as a city. And you'll see the same thing in the council part of the budget. We trim some things up, but by and large kept everything intact. This part of the budget still has the 6.5 FTEs that you have in this current year budget cycle, which was a reduction of 1 FTE from the FY24 budget. The main reductions in the council budget was targeted at professional services and some communication-related expenditures. Budget adjustments, really in there, still you guys aren't gonna see a difference. It's just a tighter budget, and we're gonna be more deliberate when you guys register for some of the more expensive conferences like LOC. We wanna make sure that if you guys are registering for them, that you're attending them, and also put that on a general rotation, so all you guys aren't attending them the same year, which creates a bigger budget impact. But by and large, you guys will still operate the same with the one adjustment for those Wednesday work sessions going to more of a snack-based approach than a full meal, which will save us some money over the fiscal year. Communications and engagement, a big focus this year continues to be on transparency, accessibility, and timely public communications across the organization. Noel spent a significant amount of time working on a social media policy, as well as getting alignment around our social media efforts as an organization. Multilingual communication, ADA accessibility, and multi-platform outreach are her key priorities for communication. We've seen some good data to support doing some more print advertising as well. The one thing you'll see difference in this communication part is the removal of the iHeart Mac platform. That was an ongoing cost that was funded out of ARPA. And it was also one of your council priorities out of the August 28th work session to review the efficiency of that. And through that review, it didn't justify transitioning that to an ongoing cost out of the general fund, so it was eliminated. But community engagement still is a priority for the city and the organization. We're just gonna redeploy our efforts around that. Human Resources, Director Hedges and Amy continue to work on standardizing HR policies. The NeoGov software was also another ARPA-funded expense that you're gonna see rolled into the general fund. We use that software for all of our onboarding, our trainings, hirings, and application processes. So it really is an important tool that we maintain here in the organization, and Director Hedges can speak more to that when we get to questions. Strengthening coordination between departments, as well as centralizing our efforts overall, has been the main focus of HR and will be going into next fiscal year with the budget that's been presented. One of the biggest takeaways you can see in that budget is the need for outside legal counsel for HR-related matters. Director Hedges and Claudia and Cord got through the MPA contract without having any outside legal counsel through that process, which is kudos to them on that. There's a massive savings around that. There's been greater emphasis on proactive employee support and policy guidance, as well as documentation practices and supervisor coaching. Addressing those issues early and internally save us money and time, as well as help with retention throughout the organization. And then paid leave organ was brought in-house January 1 of this calendar year, which created some savings for us, which you'll also see in the budget. Our legal department remains basically status quo. Vacancy savings from this year helped offset David's family leave. We contracted with some outside legal services for that. In this upcoming fiscal year, we anticipate to use that allocated funds to hire for that position that's been there the last couple years. The reasons it's sat vacant is David was new to the role here in Oregon and for the city, and so wanted some time to understand what's the best use of those resources. And him and I have had multiple conversations about making sure they're deployed this coming year and increasing capacity and efficiency in the organization. You'll also see that there's a new dedicated line for any settlements. We don't know what those settlements will be, but we felt from a transparency aspect, they shouldn't be buried in a professional services line. They should be called out. And so you as council, the budget committee, and the community knows what we've spent on those types of endeavors. And now I'll turn it over to Director Henry for finance, and then we'll do questions at the end.
So in finance, our staffing remains flat, same number of people that we've had. It's not quite adequate staffing for the amount of work that should be done for a city of this size. We did propose an ad package for adding a staff accountant. So you all know it's been the same ad package that's been proposed year after year. So this is not a new request. This has been proposed several times. And we're not coming to you asking you to cut the budget other places to fund this. This is simply so that you know what we have asked for. There is a shortage across administration, across the various departments in administration, for staffing, and my hope is that over the course of the next year, we can come up with some creative ways to bring positions that will help everyone in administration, or some restructuring or things like that that can get us where we need to be. But specifically in finance, we can't assist or make sure that we're complying with procurement requirements across the city. And we're not able to get our policies updated to where they need to be. And to get everything ready to have large amounts of federal funding. So what I really would like is for us to get to a place where we can get federal funds for 3rd Street, where we can be confident in getting some larger federal grants. If we get over $750,000, then we're subject to the single audit, and then the requirements are more intensive. And that's what we don't have the staffing for right now. We're not set up for that. So that's what I wanted to bring to your attention. You will not see it in the budget, like I said. We did not add it to that. But another thing to be aware of is that we do have several retirements coming up in finance. And we notably have a retirement within less than 5 years. And it is all of 30 years of finance department knowledge. So we do need to do some succession planning. So we do need to start talking about that fairly soon. And how do we transition that to the next generation, I guess. And we also want to expand the transparency portal. We do finally have that connected. It's getting updated on a regular basis. And we need to have the time to keep that updated and make new, easy-to-use portals and answer citizens' questions and council questions, budget committee questions, in a way that can be very transparent for the community. And for that, we need to have enough people to do that. And so that's where we're at with that. Over the years, you can see, I want to point out, our personnel services budget at the bottom of this slide has been increasing. That goes up with COLA, it goes up with the cost of medical insurance, but it hasn't gone up with people. And you can see that our materials and services has gone down each year. So finance has been working very hard to manage our budget by tightening the belt. This does mean that we've decreased our budget for contractual services. This means that we don't have money there now that if we have to bring in someone on contract to do more difficult accounting work, or to cover if someone's out on medical leave or something like that, we don't have that cushion of contractual services that we could use before for those specialized services if we needed to call in a CPA, for example. And we've just barely touched on travel and training, because without those extra services, it's even more important that our accountants stay up to date with the latest and keep that training up for all of the new standards that are going on. There's new standards each year. So that is where finance is at. I do want to go over non-departmental before we stop for questions, if that's okay. The non-departmental department is in your books. If you look on page 324 in your binders, I want to suggest another option. Chair Maxfield had asked that we bring forward options for possibly funding the aquatic center out of the budget and things like that. So I don't have it in finance, but in non-departmental, I want to bring your attention to the amount on the line 9901-25. That is the budgeted ending fund balance for facility improvements. If you'll recall, when we were talking with Public Works, we talked about capital facility improvements and how we've added to the budget for that. I want to make sure the entire budget committee understands that there are actually two $1 million amounts. There's $1 million for the amount of projects we intend to do this coming year. And then there's another $1 million that we're proposing to set aside and add to that capital reserve. My proposal would be that instead of adding $1 million to that capital reserve, that we add $800,000. I find that the jump from no capital to $2 million capital a year is a really large jump for a city that hasn't been doing these large capital items for a long time. And by taking $200,000 out of that amount, we could add the 147 in for the aquatic center and the 51,000 that Chief just mentioned for the YCOM increase that we weren't expecting. And those would net out to the 200,000, and then we wouldn't have to impact any positions, any of the police vacancy positions. It would fill the Parks and Rec, and it would extend by 1 year to get $1 more million for that facilities set aside. So that's what I would like to bring to the table as a proposal for funding. And that's all I have.
Okay. Counselor Peralta?
Thank you, Director Henry. I appreciate the suggestions and good report as always. Do we have a number from the library in terms of cost to expand from 39 hours to 45?
Yes, let me just bring that up. We're looking at about $78,000
Okay.
for 5 hours on Sunday.
Okay. What would the staffing model look like then at that point? And not staffing, but hours. I mean, I understand it's 44 hours, but what hours would you be open versus currently?
So we are currently open Tuesday and Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 10 to 5 p.m. And so then this would add 5 hours on Sunday, 12 to 5.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Thank you, Chair. My memory and it's already been a number of hours of budget sessions, and my memory may not be accurate, but my memory at the beginning of this was we also had 113,000 or thereabouts as a surplus above. It wasn't a 0-0 budget. Is that
135.
135.
135? So we also have that to work with as well. Am I correct?
Yes and no. We have the overall ending fund balance, which is there. So there is 135,000 if you're talking strictly this year, what comes in and what goes out. What we're looking at is at the overall, over the years, what can we sustain in the longer model? And if you,
But for this year's budget, pardon me while I interrupt for just a second. For this year's budget, that 135 is available to address these deficiencies.
Yes, it just upsets the projection model that was talked about in night one.
Okay.
And looking out farther.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
so that projection model is on page 45. And what I proposed would simply take the orange piece of that Let me see if that, nope. I added it to the slideshow in case I could squeeze it in on Claudia before it was up this evening, but I didn't quite make it. So the orange piece would become shorter by the amount that we were spending on the operating. So the graph itself would look exactly the same. It would just be slightly shorter at the top. So it doesn't change the impact overall. It doesn't change any of that. It just uses up the piece of the orange balance instead of the blue balance in my rainbow accounting.
Okay, Committee Member Frost, I believe, raised her hand.
I did, yes, thank you very much. I know I brought this up last year as well, so I'm just going to ask the question. This is on my mind. I'm looking through the travel and education lines in each of the department budgets, and I'm just wondering, and maybe Director Henry, you can speak for the group, but did you look at that? Did you look at making adjustments and seeing, do we need to do the same amount of travel and education across all departments? It just doesn't seem consistent when I look at the amount per FTE. Some departments have significantly more per FTE budgeted than others, and so I'm just wondering if that's something that the group looked at.
Yeah, Committee Member Frost, each department and their management team, travel and education was one of the questions asked in both budget review processes, and what you see in each department budget is based on what their needs are in their department as far as continued education to build their bench. So some departments, it might seem out of, if you looked at it from an FTE standpoint, it might seem out of balance, but when you look at it for who is in those departments, in those FTE roles, the traveling and education is what those directors need to maintain or build up their education platform within their individual departments. I didn't want to take a broad approach of you have this many FTEs, you get this much travel and education. I wanted it to be specific to what the needs were of each department.
Okay, great, thank you so much for explaining that.
Councilor Benner?
I'm not sure when the appropriate time to ask this, but I'm curious about we talked about these long-range forecasts, and the way to make that work is adjustment of the proportion of the transient lodging tax that goes and where that money goes. And also, is this budget process at the end of which we vote and it invokes the additional 50 cents, or is that a separate vote and discussion?
So this budget is prepared at a 502 tax rate. So when you make that motion to adopt this budget at the end of this evening or Thursday evening, you will say that you want to levy the 502. What was the second part of your question?
Transient lodging tax, you said to build this long-term sort of sustainability, you were talking about changing the distribution of that. Is that something that's part of this, and when we vote to approve the budget, that just happens, or is that a separate discussion and a separate vote?
So the transient lodging tax, as far as what we anticipate to come on revenue-wise, is built into the long-range model. There's no additional transit and lodging tax as far as like what we're allocating out of this budget, but from conversations with Dan at Visit McMinnville, him and I have found alignment around how to stair-step that approach so it doesn't pull the rug out from underneath Visit McMinnville and they continue to operate around their same general budget they have right now as we see revenue continue to come online over the coming years.
But is that a separate, is that decided, or is that something that's going to come in front of the council?
Visit McMinnville right now is asking to present at the June 9th meeting, which there will be some slides in their slide deck around TLT.
Thank you.
Councilor Chen?
There will also be the TLT fund that Katie will present when we get through admin.
I just want to also, thank you, Chair. I just want to also be clear, this assumes maintaining the city service fee.
It does. And that's a council decision, not a budget committee decision. The tax rate is a budget committee decision.
Councilor Tucholsky?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I Got a question on line item, page 117 of the paper. Line item 6490, there's a public art donation of $6,000. I'm not objecting to that, I'm just curious, what is that?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Say that again, Dan.
Page 117, line number 6490. It says public art donation for $6,000. 117, line 6490.
Adam, I can talk to that if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great, Jenny.
Okay. So the public art program does receive donations in some years, and this is a donation that we know we can expect for the upcoming year.
Got it. Okay, that's completely the opposite of what I expected, so thank you for that clarity. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is just a comment toward, the city admin in general, having $1 million capital funds to undertake the deferred maintenance, I think is highly appropriate. I just want to say thank you for that. We've let many of our facilities go by the wayside for much too long. We end up with pools that leak and parks that don't work, and I'm thankful you did that. Second thing is the capital, basically reserve of $1 million as well. I think that's also important because it does, and I understand what you were saying earlier, it does give us the opportunity to continue working further into the future and making certain that we don't have to forego these capital improvements. So I just want to say thank you for that. That's it.
If no other questions around that, I'm going to turn over to Director Burke to bring us back to IS.
Okay. All right. Hello, Budget Committee. We're on pages 491 to 508 for information services. So thanks for the opportunity to present even more information to you all tonight. My name is Scott Burke. I've been serving as the city's IS director for the last 10 years and been with the city for almost 20. We're a small but effective team of 4 that most of you all have probably met at one point or another. It's me, Lori Morgan, Sean Roberts, and Megan Simmons, all of which who have been here all 12 years now. So we've been doing this a long time. I'm going to run through a few topics tonight. We're going to recap this year in IT. We're going to dive into some of the high points of our proposed budget and then some of the challenges and the projects that we have planned for next year. Okay, so just to briefly recap some of the trends in IT that kind of encompass our challenges and opportunities and our budget related. Like everything else in our lives, things just cost more every year. Technology is the same way. Software contracts typically have 3 to 5% standard year-to-year risers. Hardware costs continue to rise. Sometimes we see components go from 25 to 50% more in the course of a year. So we shop around, of course, but that's the reality that we all live in. Most of that has been well covered in the news is based on memory chips a lot of times, which kind of dovetails into another topic because all the memory chips on Earth are being consumed by AI data processing centers, which makes everything more expensive for the rest of us. And just to talk a little bit more about AI while we're on the topic, AI is with us, kind of here to stay. We all kind of understand that at that point, I think. As a city, we've been keeping an eye on how that unfolds across the city, how it appears in new products that we see from different vendors, how city employees are using it more and more in different ways. We have a draft AI policy working its way towards adoption. And while we're not rolling out specific city recommended tools yet, the landscape changes every few months, so it'd be really silly to invest a whole lot into something and then the next big thing comes out. So we're working to establish a framework that addresses the overarching principles that apply to the city's use of AI. Things like, having human eyes on all output, not uploading sensitive data. The industry's moving really fast. We had ChatGPT and everybody wanted that, and now we have Claude and everybody wants that. Next month, everybody's going to want something else. So we're trying to focus on those core values of how we're going to use AI. And then also at the same time, not move slow, but not move too fast either. People are using it for summaries, they're using it for translations, they're using it for creating content. It's really up to a lot of different people about how they use it in their jobs. We can provide the tools and people have to decide if they're effective for them or not. So more to come on that. So we'll be back here talking about that next year and the year after, I'm sure. And kind of as I touched on with the sensitive data part and AI, cybersecurity is another chief concern, definitely way past trending, but we've got a couple small security projects in the software line item of this year's budget as we continue to just add layers to our defensive posture. We plan to apply for another state grant in the next fiscal year for additional resources. And generally speaking, the pace of technology just increases. Every week we have high priority patch this device because there's a bug out for it. Sometimes they make the news, sometimes they don't. Sometimes we're up at 2 in the morning downloading a patch and putting it on something so we can sleep the rest of the night. Windows updates are relentless. And as a city, we don't adopt a cloud-first strategy, but we continue to see our infrastructure and software move to cloud-based options when those are fiscally appropriate. So we embrace it where we need to, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. So we're still what we call a hybrid. We don't have everything in the cloud, we don't have everything on premise, but we try to find that mix where it makes sense financially and operationally too. So moving on to next year, some new projects in this budget package. Our ad package approved was a resilience upgrade for the New World ERP software. In a nutshell, ERP is basically one of the biggest core pieces of software the city uses. It's AP, payroll, budget, purchasing, all that good stuff. We're going to be uploading our ERP data nightly to our vendor, and as an insurance policy, so to speak, if we happen to have some sort of disruptive event, maybe it's a physical event, maybe it's a disaster, maybe it's a cyber event, we can call up our vendor and we can spin up that ERP software in the cloud, web-based, and we can still operate and minimize that direct disruption. So that'll allow a lot of continuity of operations, so we can still perform the core operations of a city, which is a big deal. It's an investment, and it's also dipping our toe into possibly hosting our entire ERP system in the cloud somewhere in the future if that fits into our plans. So some of the other new projects that we have included in this year's or next year's budget, we're going to be upgrading our existing phone system that we share with Yamhill County and Yamhill Communications. We've shared that system with them for a couple decades now. It continues to benefit all 3 agencies to partner on phones. We're going to continue to work on completing the deployments. So we've heard tonight about the municipal court software and the PD records management software. And one of the big internal projects we have an infrastructure, basically, you used to have a server room full of servers. Now we only have a few servers and we have 100 virtual servers. But in a nutshell, we've been running a core technology for about a decade that, as things go in the next refresh cycle, is going to stick us with probably quadrupling our bills. And we're not going to stick around and watch that play out until we get squeezed to death. So we're going to have to make a big leap in some of our core technology. It's a one-time investment in licensing that you'll see in our capital, and will result in annual savings of probably $20,000 to $30,000 a year on top of what we're not going to pay a ridiculous rate just because of vendors squeezing the industry. So venture capital, gotta love it. We had 2 ad packages this year. The first one was approved for the ERP resilience. The one that was not approved, just to touch on that, was and ask for additional personnel too. We've had that in there for a couple years. We remain at the same staffing level that we were at in 2003. And as we were talking about tonight, AI didn't exist back then. Cybersecurity barely existed back then. Remote work barely existed. We have a highly experienced and efficient team that makes that work. And it's just increasingly difficult to keep up with city technology needs, let alone talk about succession planning and vacation coverage and knowledge transfer. We also fully understand that there are many departments making it work on limited resources, and there are many areas of the city where the investment. So we just want to make sure we're in that conversation as well, in full disclosure. A couple of projects that we did complete this year. We got the police completely moved from mobile computer terminals, those old big computers that used to be in the trunks of the cars. Every officer has a tough book now, so it kind of allows the city to keep up with a lot of compliance mandates. the body camera technology and all that digital evidence that the chief was talking about. We've completely moved all of our email operations into the cloud. It allows for a lot more business continuity. We fully deployed the multi-factor authentication to every employee that has a network login, so that's a big security win for us. And on the infrastructure side, we've also refreshed our firewall and storage and a couple core components this year, so trying to save a little money in the process and keep pace with technology. And since I've been talking about rising costs and we're talking about budget, I just wanted to point out a few projects that are making a difference for that in our corner of the budget. The firewall replacement, we basically got a firewall bill that, again, just came in through the roof, and we said, you know what, there's got to be something better out there. So it was actually cheaper for us to buy a new firewall and deploy it than it was to renew the existing software that we had. Didn't plan it this year, took a little time out of our schedule, but it's literally going to save us $20,000 a year. And that's, so that was kind of a good win for us this year. The phone project, by the time we complete that, we'll complete that next year. Next year will be a 0 year for the phone budget, and then after that, we'll be saving $40,000 roughly annually on top of the system that we have now. So we got that coming down the pipe. And then the infrastructure project I was talking about will save us about $20,000, $30,000 when that finally shakes out. So in the course of a year, we can point to about $80,000 or $90,000 in ongoing savings, and hopefully the next year, things change quickly in our branch of the world, and there'll be more opportunities to hopefully pick off a few more of these small wins that add up to big numbers. So we'll just keep doing that, keep doing what we do. That's really all I have tonight. Like I said, we got a full slate of projects ahead next year. We're an internal services department, and we're here to support other departments and ultimately enable city services through technology in the most efficient and effective ways. So. Thanks, everybody.
Any comments or questions? Councilor Geary.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you and specifically call out the AI policy you mentioned and my appreciation and I guess excitement towards having that discussion. I'm probably a little bit more of a fuddy-duddy old guy who sort of is scared and doesn't want to use that, but I think it's important to do exactly what you said, get ahead of it and understand how we do and don't want the city to use that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Peralta.
Scott, I just wanted to say thanks for finding that cost savings in the budget this year, and thanks to you and your team for the stability that you provide the city. Something that we don't think about IT unless there's a problem, and there's very seldom problems, so I really appreciate you.
Thank you. We're okay with that. Just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll keep you going. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on the home stretch. Now we have a few funds that just don't quite fit anywhere else. They're kind of the extra funds. So we'll start with the Grants and Special Assessments Fund. This is a special revenue fund that houses our DEID revenue as well as our opioid settlement funds. And these are
329.
329? Start on page 329. So for the biggest change for us here, the DID is the same as it's been previously. The rate is set for 3 years. There's no change to that. But the opioid settlement funds, this will be the first budget year where we're planning on using them for something specific. And so these will be used to, we're proposing to use these to pay for the contract with the Yamhill County Health and Human Services for the work that they do in helping address the homeless population, most notably for the issues related to drug addiction in the downtown area. And it helps relieve our police officers for doing other types of work while they focus on the mental health work. And it is an acceptable use of the opioid settlement funds. And so this budget proposes to budget that and into the years upcoming so that we can continue that service from mental health. Are there any questions on the grants and special assessments? I was just going to stop at the end of all the funds, but
Yes, I know Counselor Chair Peralta, or is that how you say it? Chair? Counselor? Counselor Peralta.
Thank you. So
It's hard.
I just got, okay, fine. So in the current budget, the total amount I see for that is $95,000 to, or maybe I should just ask it this way. How much is going to the county for that service?
let me get there.
And let me just say, my overall questions, I think we've taken in $483,000 in the fund, from what I can tell. How much are we taking in per year? And then how much are we spending this year on that county contract?
The county behavioral health contract is $40,000 a year.
Can I ask what you were referring to, Counselor Peralta, on the total that you were?
There was one spot in there where it said 483 for a total amount taken in, and another spot on page
330.
where it says 590.
591,000.
On page 330? Oh.
Of the,
Oh, the 591 is how much we've received overall in funds, over all the years.
and that's a
Been received.
segregated fund.
That is a segregated fund that can only be used for,
Consistent with the settlement.
consistent with the opioid settlement.
Right.
Yes.
So my question is, we've taken in
591,000.
591,000. How much are we taking in per year in the settlement fees?
It's close to 200,000, I want to say. Yeah, 105,000 is what it is this year that we're looking at.
And we're spending $40,000 on the contract this year, so that fund is a net positive for the year, right?
That is correct.
And there's money that's been built up in the fund over time.
That is correct.
Okay. Or to what extent is police staffing a valid use of the opioid settlement dollars?
Only, well, go ahead. I would much prefer that legal answer that.
The settlement is very specific about how and where things can be used. There could potentially be certain trainings or programs that might apply, but they are very opioid use disorder specific. It's not something that we've looked at over the last year, but in the past, there's never been an obvious need that actually worked with the settlement agreement.
Thank you.
And to that point, Council President, previous to this current proposed budget, the $40,000 contract was split general fund and opioid settlement dollars, and through David and Katie's work, we were able to find a path to make that all opioid settlement dollars. So we're on the path that I think you're looking at pursuing, but the lane is very narrow that you need to expense those dollars in.
Thank you. And I mean, where I'm going with this is, I think it would be great if we could backfill be great if I spoke in the mic. And then I think it'd be great if there were a way to backfill costs in the police department, whether it's directly the positions, since money's fungible once it's in the department, to use opioid dollars if there's something that can be used used for that in the department, and then take the money that we offset and use it to pay for the staffing pay for the increased cost of the YCOM in a way that doesn't affect the staffing.
I'm more than open to exploring that this coming fiscal year, but I don't think in this budget committee cycle, we could land on anything that would pass legal and finances test in the next 2 days.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Counselor Chenoweth?
I might, thank you, Chair. Following up on that line of questioning, opioid dollars are not indefinite dollars, right? Eventually, we're no longer going to get opioid settlement dollars.
That's correct.
So these are kind of like, in some ways, a one-time fund kind of situation. It's just taking a while for that one-time fund to get here.
Correct. It will end at some point. It is a large amount. We will continue getting it for several years now into the future, but it does have an end date.
Okay, thank you. And then off on a different topic, it would appear on a glance we've spent a little over $100,000 of the opioid settlement money. I just heard where $20,000 went 1 year. Where did the rest of the opioid money already get spent? Do we know? Or is that something that can be brought back at a later time?
I think most of it predated my time here. I heard that early on we spent a certain amount on Narcan, which was an acceptable purchase. And then, of course, last year under this same contract, a portion of it was attributed to opioid funds, though not the whole contract amount.
I do vaguely remember Narcan. I just didn't remember approving anything, and so that's why I'm asking the question: is when did we do this and say we were going to send this money the way it went?
Yeah, to get you a detailed breakdown, I would prefer to bring something back than.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Counselor Benner?
My head's spinning in so many different ways, but I think this is one of these funds where, man, there's a huge problem out there, and we've got this money that's specifically for that huge problem. And so I'd love to see it come back in front of the council with an opportunity to dive into it and figure out how we can spend this money for the reason it was intended, which is, I mean, it's just such a profound need in our community. And to see that money sitting there, I think there's a great opportunity there, whether it's more police officers or whatever, that we can channel into the right department. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments, and understood.
Oh, Counselor Tukolsky?
Sorry.
Yeah, I just can't let this pass for a second. I tried, but it didn't work. I wanted to make sure that people understood the value of the Yamhill County Community Outreach Services. It's an extremely amazing organization with very caring people that are doing some significantly challenging work that law enforcement is not set up to accommodate. And I really believe in what we're doing and funding that, and I hope it continues. Putting police officers into a situation of mental health crises with weapons is not always the best idea. It happens sometimes, unfortunately, but I did want to say the community outreach service people are, you know, they're angels and they're doing great work. So I just wanted to extend my support for that.
And if I may make a comment, most counties keep this at the county level and it goes to mental health as opposed to going down to the city level like we have it. And so that's part of the difficulty we're having, is that a lot of time these services are provided by county mental health. And so this is a way that we can contract with county mental health and get the services provided.
Just to reiterate what Councilor Tukolsky was saying a moment ago. Sorry, this Chief Wood. Sorry, I'm over here. I am above you. It's a true force multiplier for the police department, because we can give this individual who's experiencing a non-law enforcement necessarily crisis to somebody better equipped to handle their crisis needs. And I'm not tying up a police officer for extended periods of time trying to navigate that crisis. It is a true force multiplier for us, and a much appreciated one, I'm grateful that we found a way to continue to fund this service.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. Whoops. Just going to move right past transient lodging tax, apparently. Okay. Okay, transient lodging tax. So as it stands right now, we have 70% of the transient lodging tax, which any of you will see on your hotel bills or things like that. 70% of it goes to Visit McMinnville, and it will go down to 50/50. This is a change that has gone through the state. And this is what Councilor Benner was talking about, us discussing it. The city manager and Visit McMinnville have been discussing how to make it so that it works well for both agencies, doesn't impact too much, and everyone, so that it works well for everyone involved, since we work closely together. We have used a slightly lower projection for revenues for the upcoming year, simply because of the political climate that's out there, the cost of fuel, traveling. We just are not expecting the growth that we could be seeing based on what's going on in the world right now. So just kind of have ramped back a little bit that increase in tourism dollars for this coming summer. Not decreasing it tremendously, but just not seeing the increase like we may have seen in previous years. Any questions on transient lodging tax or?
Councilor Chenoweth?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. Can you tell me who sets the TLT?
So the TLT tax rate at the city level is set by the city, and then the state TLT tax rate is set by the state legislator.
And
State legislator is going to see an increase going from 1.5 to 2.75, I believe, Jan 1. And our city tax rate was last adjusted off memory about 5 years ago, and it's at a flat 10%.
And so that's set by council?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And at the time, that 10% was one of the higher ones in the state. So I wouldn't imagine there's been a ton of movement in TLT over the last few years. So we likely still are on the higher end of that.
Oh, Councilor Geary?
Yeah, I just wanted to appreciate staff's work with Visit McMinnville Direct and your work, Mayor, with Visit McMinnville Direct to lean into the legislative changes on those differentiating shares and give them a long-term on-ramp and a solid vision to plan on, where we're not lowering those or, as you said, pulling the rug out under them. And I think taking any additional revenues that come into the city, being more intentional about those rather than general fund, putting those in the general fund, but allocating to those to where we could do similar projects, but a little bit more specific destination development stuff that leans into that mission, but also helps the city more specifically, I think would be important policy direction for the council to discuss as we bring more of those revenues in. But yeah, thanks for leading that with them, and I look forward to that.
Thank you for those comments. Any other questions around TLT?
Sorry, Councilor Tukolsky.
No, you didn't miss me. I just raised my hand. For the Visit McMinnville stuff, we've got 7 out of every $10 going to Visit McMinnville right now. And I don't, even as a citizen and as a counselor, I don't feel like I have a great pulse of how we're getting any kind of ROI on that. I know they do a lot of downtown things. They do a lot of stuff. I don't know what they do. Is there any way we could get greater visibility or accountability so that we know what we're getting for that 7 out of $10?
Dan will be here June 9th to present.
Great.
And we'll be able to go through all that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, telecommunications. This is entirely passed through to McMinnville Community Media. It supports the public media services and local programming. This is from franchise fee, cable franchise fees and PEG fees. And yeah, it goes to support MCM. And it looks like Councilor Chenoweth has a question.
Councilor Chenoweth?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. One of the things that these folks do is record these meetings and put them up on their YouTube channel, which is an invaluable tool for me to go back and reflect on, and for constituents who are interested in what happens here, for those who are, to go back and reflect on what happens. And sometimes I don't know I do a good job of making sure everybody understands that's part of what we're paying for here, is having that service, and I think it's very good to have it. I appreciate the work they do.
Okay, moving on.
Then we have the debt service fund. This is important for the decisions you are making this evening. We do have a debt service levy that you are approving. It is proposed at $2,990,528. We set it based on the total amount of public debt, and we calculate it so that we have enough cash in the bank at the end of the year to float us until all of the payments that are due before new property taxes come in October hit. So there's a calculation that goes into it that we do in finance, and then we calculate there's usually about a 5% that don't pay, so we have to figure that into it. And then this is giving us an estimated rate of the 0.7702. What you are going to be approving is the overall levy, and the assessor is the one who sets the rate at the very last minute once we have the full, there's a specific word that the assessor has, but it's what everybody's property is valued at. So we have a similar total to last year, to previous years, but a decrease in the rate because of an increase in property values. This is based on the expectations from the assessor. We have a couple more years, just so you know, and then the PERS loan will be finished, and so this debt rate will go down for the loans that we currently have. Any questions on debt service? Okay, insurance services. So revenues in this fund come from payments from other funds. So all of the other funds pay into insurance services. All employees do as well. So payroll deductions go into this fund for the paid leave Oregon. So if you'll recall, a little bit ago, we talked about how we brought in-house paid leave Oregon. So this is the first year that you're seeing this in the budget. The revenue from paid leave Oregon, and then as well as the expense from paid leave Oregon. We have workers' compensation comes out of this fund, our property and liability insurance, which is down slightly. The estimates for this year are down a little bit, so that's nice. We do have a larger contingency in this fund than you've seen in previous years, and it has to do with this being the first year that we're doing paid leave Oregon. We don't know how much we're going to need because we've never administered it before. So in order to be safe, we need to have some in the contingency. We cannot move it out of fund balance in order to increase the expense, but we can move it out of contingency to increase the expense if we have employees that are out on paid leave Oregon. And I'll let, Vicky, do you have anything to add on paid leave Oregon? Okay, so the basic idea is that we're estimating to have a savings of about 120,000 for the year. So this savings, you'll actually see throughout the city in all different funds, because in our payroll, so you have the payroll deductions and the payroll benefits. So the benefit side of it, rather than paying into a separate agency and paying Hartford to administer it and all of that, we're paying ourselves for it, and then we're administering it internally. So we don't have all of those outside charges, and we're able to pay ourselves significantly less as long as we're managing the money well and doing that internally. So we've added that to our list of hats that we wear. So this is, when Vicki brought this, it was a great idea to save some more money for the general fund, well, for all the funds. Looks like we have a question.
Sorry, Committee Member Frost.
Yes, thank you so much. I just had a question on the paid leave Oregon. What is the plan if we go over, if the employees who are going out on paid leave are overdrawing the amount of money that's in the fund? Do we have a backup plan or like a umbrella policy or something that's going to cover the city if that happens?
So the way the in-house administration of the plan works, essentially, we are able to keep our rate lower because we are already budgeting for an employee's salary for the year. So all of our full-time staff, we already have their salary budgeted. So that's already covered in the budget if they go out on leave. The contingency that we've built in are for those employees that qualify for paid leave that are part-time and don't have a salary built into the budget. So the chances of us going over are very slim since we are already budgeting for most people that use protected leave.
Great, thank you.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Thank you, Chair. On the reverse to that question, when we have surpluses, is that a lockbox account, meaning that surplus just rolls over to the next year? Or are you going to reset it back to the 166 or whatever number you think you need for every year?
Katie and I talked about this when we implemented the in-house administration and plan to review it each year and see where we're at. Hopefully, we won't need all the money that's in there and can lower the rates. That's the goal.
So, okay. That tells me it's not going to be a lockboxed account. It's going to be reset every year.
The rates might change, and Katie could speak to this a little bit more, but what you can use the insurance fund for varies, and but we could use that towards administration of the program and things like that. So if there is leftover funds in there that we have too much, we can either lower the rate in the next year or use those funds for something else.
So I just would like to say I would really like to ensure it doesn't become a slush fund that we're spending out of, and that we keep the reins tight and controlled on that. Thank you.
I think that's it. All right. It appears we are done with the department presentations. We are going to take a 5-minute break before we have time for public comment. So we will return at 8:04. Oh my God, I need a break. It's like 1:30 to take off. Go for it.
Recording stopped.
going?
But it's going.
What's that about?
Sal's got a nice back.
I wouldn't know. We don't want any more settlements for the city.
No.
And you know what, we'll pay you anyway.
2 hours we were doing the human slot machine at Memorial and, but it mostly was just affecting me.
Recording in progress.
I mean, it seems like. They're smart to be careful. All right. 8:04. Missing a few. Okay, welcome back. I won't bang that. All right, welcome back. Before final deliberations and the vote on the levy rate and approved budget, we would like to give the public one more opportunity to provide input. Any interested audience members are invited to provide comments on the proposed budget. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. If we don't get to you tonight, a possible additional opportunity for public testimony will be available during the May 21st budget meeting if a meeting is necessary. To ensure all voices are heard, we kindly request that individuals sign up to provide public comment on only one of these evenings. Public testimony received through the city website or emails will be added to the public record of the meeting. If you are on Zoom and wish to speak, please use the raise your hand feature or chat feature and send a chat to Claudia. Once your turn is up, we will announce your name and unmute your mic. To ensure fairness, we will alternate between participants who signed up in person and those who registered via Zoom. Please announce your name and the city you live in for the record. We will start with those who have pre-registered. Claudia, who do we have signed up for public comment?
First, we'll start with Elena Madrick.
Welcome.
Elena Mudrak, resident of McMinnville. Just want to start off saying thank you to the staff. This budget season, all the materials was so transparent and easy to find. So just thank you to everybody for your work. In theory, this budget reflects a list of priorities that the City Council created for this budget season. However, in effect, this budget maintains status quo spending detached from the stated priorities. It accentuates generalized underfunding and one specific case of bloated spending. When we consider the list of unmet needs from the meeting materials, we find critical shortfalls of this budget. Our understaffed departments need to be appropriately staffed. The IS department needs their personnel add. They have been at the same staffing since 2003, a time before smartphones and AI. Given today's technological landscape, it would be prudent to appropriately staff the IS department. For similar reasons, the finance staff accountant add should be accommodated. As noted in the unmet needs description, the finance team is taking their work with them on vacation, which is not acceptable practice for internal controls. Such severely understaffed departments increase the city's risk of attrition and undermines our security and resiliency, adding costs along the way. While I know neither of these departments want to vociferously advocate for their needs, I'd like to do so. For city leadership, CDD lobby hours were expanded from 25 to 40 hours per week. In an office building where approximately 10 to 15% of the space is encumbered with files, that creates a difficult and uncomfortable situation. In order to meet leadership goals and community needs, the Budget Committee should fund the CDD document imaging and scanning and the special projects position. The special projects position will have the economic and legislative returns for McMinnville that will otherwise be lost, which we cannot afford as we are continually financially pressed. This position brought in far more money than it spent. I would implore the CDD and Director Richards to paint a more full picture of the value and work of this position for the Budget Committee before they make decisions. Chronic underfunding of the CDD is part of what has made McMinnville's growth pains so tangible for many residents right now. Right now, the proposed budget inspires a cycle of criminality. If we defund departments that support housing, shared resources, and accessible spaces, while a lack of housing is a jailable offense, then we create and perpetuate criminality. If we don't foster the department that plans for alternate modes of transportation, as people are forced to spend more of their income on vehicular transportation, then we risk entering the same cycle of criminality. People will increasingly have to choose between housing and their cars. According to the housing needs analysis, 50% of McMinnville households make $50,000 or less annually, and about 30% of renters here spend more than 50% of their income on housing. We need our tax dollars to support us, not support incriminating us. Thank you.
Thank you. Claudia?
Next, we'll go to Zoom and go to Margaret Cross.
Welcome, Margaret. You need to turn yourself off mute.
Sorry. All right. Yes, can you hear me now?
We can.
Good. Margaret Cross, resident of McMinnville. And I wanted to thank the committee and the council for the work they've done. I apologize that I didn't know about the discussion about the cuts to hours at the rec center. I was out of town, but once I learned about it, I did a little investigation, and I really can't find any changes in state regulations that were referred to in the News Register. So perhaps that could be clarified. I don't know. But I would like to say that I consider both the library and the rec center, particularly the pool, to be of incredible community value to all ages. Those are the two things that really are something that unite the community, provide tangible services that keep us healthy, that keep us engaged. And so if there's any way that we can try to keep that schedule as it exists, 6 days a week, providing services to all ages of the community, I really would encourage you to try to do it. It's so important for both our mental and our physical health. And as a senior, I use it all the time, and it does keep me healthy. It's very, very important to me as a citizen of McMinnville. So thank you for your work on this, and I hope you can find a way to keep the pool open and also restore some of the library hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Richard Smith.
Welcome.
Hello there, my name is Richard Smith. I'm a resident here in McMinnville. I'm concerned with the direction of our spending in our city. I've heard some concerning things in the department presentations these past 2 weeks. First is the fact that the library and aquatic center hours continue to suffer from broad cuts that aren't being repaired. It's not acceptable for the library, which is a resource for school-age children, and everyone for that matter, to be closed on Sundays. I told this story last year, but I'll tell it again. I was a delinquent growing up in McMinnville. I had a real opportunity to go down a criminal path. I had a real opportunity to become an addict and or a dealer, but I didn't, mainly because the community center provided a place for me to put on a music event that got me hooked on music and concert production and being a member of a broader community. I was in the newspaper not as an unnamed youth involved in a violent crime, but as an aspiring concert producer at the age of 16 who was trying to make something to celebrate the local music product of my hometown. Crime was prevented from me and from my friends, not because of the police, but because of the community. That's why public safety is so much more than just police. Additionally, bullets don't return any money to the city as they are spent, nor do they turn people into law-abiding taxpayers. They are money spent with every pull of the trigger. Every dollar spent instead on planning, environmental improvements, parks, and infrastructures will return money to city coffers, as well as making the city a better place to live. We need to lift people out of poverty, make them feel safe, and help them be a part of this community. Please scrutinize the bulk of McMinnville's budget being spent this year on the police. Ask questions like, do we need a reserve program whose only member is a sitting city councilor? So much of this reads as a Christmas wish list asking for everything you can. With so much money owed in deferred maintenance and with cutbacks to hours at public facilities, we cannot afford to fund every want of the MACPD. I want a safe city, I really do. But we are a city of 30,000 and our police is 40% of our budget, with line items such as $72,000 for car washes and $25K for a police reserve program. You have to ask, do we really need riot gear? Do we really need drones? Are these really the needs of McMinnville? I'm not anti-police, I'm really not. That's not where I'm coming from. But I want our city to fund services and infrastructure necessary to continue to being a great city. And right now, I'm seeing the bulk of the money of McMinnville, 40%, which is much more than other cities of our size spend on police. We are at the high end of that range, going towards the MACPD. And I ask you to consider the city's other departments because they make McMinnville a great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Miriam Peterson.
Hi, I'm Miriam. I am a resident of McMinnville, and I want to reiterate my thanks to Director Henry Finance Department, the IS Department, for the improvements to the budget process and the online access this year. Overall, I do believe that our city is efficiently run based on services provided on very tight budgets, but our community still struggles. I have friends with good jobs who can't find affordable rent or come close to buying their first homes. Others have only been able to do so with ADUs on the property, multi-generational living options available. So funding our CDD is necessary for these sorts of creative housing solutions which help reduce crime and homelessness. Our budget document says that our commitment to public safety is clear, with about 40% dedicated to this endeavor, and I would disagree. I think it shows a commitment to policing and reactive policy. And you can choose, as the budget committee, to instead fund a department that designs safe roadways, resulting in fewer accidents and speeding, improves affordable housing, creates vibrant commercial areas, and long-term resiliency. Right now, with gas at $5.15, if not years ago, now is the time to invest in walkable, bikeable, and public transit-oriented planning, including the 99 walk bike project that's been deferred. Historically, however, this body has chosen to fund a department that penalizes people for not having access to these things, right? It investigates and puts up cameras and gives tickets and makes arrests after crime and violence have occurred. A department that told our large Latino community that it would not and could not help them feel safe this year, while also spending in a way that feels above the needs of the crime in our city. After this committee has continuously slashed other budgets, suggestions that MPD take over library security for budgetary reasons and that a department with a 95% voluntary compliance rate would hand over code compliance to MPD, so now we have armed officers who would show up to tell you that your grass is too tall, while the CDD, library, Parks and Rec, and others are asked every year if they can do more with less. A city truly dedicated to public safety needs succession plans for IS and finance, resiliency and emergency management, a proactive approach to safe community spaces, and innovation in our city design and planning when times are tough. Please consider funding an ad package for the library to reopen Sundays, an additional FTE for CDD and finance, without sacrificing our capital improvement projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ryan Peterson.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Ryan Peterson, resident of McMinnville. I don't really need to tell you guys, but the city budget directly determines what municipal services are provided and effectively what the city does, which indirectly is what the city is. And as has been mentioned, this proposed budget has Mac Police Department as like close to 40% of the general fund, which is one of the highest percentages that you will see of a city's budget. And looking at that, you could be mistaken into thinking that we are living in some kind of crime epidemic, which is not the McMinnville that I know, and it's not the McMinnville that's borne out in the statistics. Departments across the city are having to stretch their staff thin and reduce what they're able to offer due to cuts in years past, and this budget just maintains that situation and perpetuates all the issues that have been compounding. And I think that's ridiculous. I would rather have a library that can be open on Sundays. I would rather have a city that can invest in transit options that are, not necessarily car-based, than be spending $30,000 on bullets, right? $70,000 on a fleet of vehicles, right? All these things that we should be doing the fiscally responsible thing and looking at our most overfunded department and seeing where we can find money for the services and programs that really are the lifeblood of this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Marks.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Andrew Marks. I'm a citizen, taxpayer, voter in McMinnville, and I don't have a lot to say. I am really impressed with your committee and board's ability to run a really tight meeting. A lot of good information, very businesslike, so I appreciate that. One thing I'd like to address is the information that came out in the paper last Friday about shutting down the pool 1 day a week as a budget control measure. And at the same time, in the article just above that, it talks about upcoming Parks and Rec bond. And the thing that really strikes me is how you can at the same time say, we don't have enough money to run the facility that we have, but I'd like you to give me a whole bunch more money to build a new facility. I'm unable to square that. I really hope that there is an answer to that forthcoming. I use the pool every day that I'm able. I'm in there, was in there this morning, and I'm in there most mornings a week. I got involved in the pool when I had an attack of arthritis, which is now under control now, but it was a life-altering opportunity for me to have a pool and a program to go to, and I've been a consistent user ever since for the past 5 years. I see people in there. There's a woman in there who goes in and walks miles in the pool, and she's lost over 100 pounds. I see people in there who are continuing their physical therapy after joint replacements and major surgeries and major illnesses. The pool is a really important place and service that makes McMinnville livable. And so I appreciate Director Henry's suggestion that there is a place to find some money to fill that gap. And also the, I believe the other portion was going to police. I am in support of both of those options. I'll close with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's everyone that signed up.
Excuse me. All right. Thank you for everyone that has shared your comments. We really value them, and we know you put in a lot of time to pay attention, and we appreciate that. We will now have time for committee discussion and further questions. Please let me know if you have something you would like to say. Councilor Peralta?
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the public conversation related to the pool. And this is stuff that's been out there, I think, in the newspaper, but I'm going to try and put it a little bit more succinctly because I think there's a little bit of misinformation out there. So in February of this year, the Oregon Health Authority placed new requirements on swimming pools for the kind of staffing level that you have to keep at the pool. They basically increased the amount of staff that you have to have. And so when we do budgeting, we do what's called basically a service level budgeting. We assume that the costs of what we did last year are going to be roughly the same this year, maybe a little bit of increased cost due to costs going up. But essentially, we try and budget for a service level budget. In order to meet the new state requirements, it costs us another roughly $150,000 to run the pool. So the point of this process is to go find that $150,000 for the community. At the same time, we have a pool that has exceeded its end of life, and we need to move into a new facility. And if you're doing the arthritis class, you know how crowded that secondary pool is during that class. So there's a need for a new facility, and there's a need imposed on us by the state to increase the staffing level at the current pool. And so hopefully that answers the question. It's not like, based on what we spent last year, we don't have $150,000 to spend. It's that we have new claims on that budget now that weren't there a year ago. And so we're going to go and try and find the resources for that in this meeting. Along those lines, I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks to all the departments for the work that you did in this budget. I think this was actually one of the budgets that I've most dreaded participating in because last year was so challenging, and yet one of the most pleasant, to this point, processes I've had because of really how good the presentations were, how engaging they were, and really you made this, from my perspective, a pretty easy process for me. It may get more difficult as the conversation happens. I think that, and I know there's going to be dialogue about this, but Chief Wood, with his budget, had suggested delaying by 4 months the staffing that he is requesting to get back to the 40 positions. And I'm mindful of the chair's comments about really never having hit that 40 staffing level for some time, and essentially over budgeting police because we haven't been hitting that staffing level. So I'm mindful of that. I'm also very appreciative of Director Henry's suggestion to come back with a $200,000 reduction in the $2 million that we're allocating across 2 funds for capital construction. And if we do those 2 things, actually, excuse me, I would like to suggest we do $220,000 out of that, which to my mind is 220 plus 56 is 276. And that would give us the money to cover the additional YCOM cost, open the pool for the Wednesday, and then reopen the library for the 4 or 5 hours that was requested by or it wasn't requested by Director Berg, but she came back and said that they could expand library hours by that amount. So those are my suggestions, that we try and restore service time to the library, restore service time to the pool, keep the full funding for police, except delay the funding for the position for 4 months, and then make one minor change to Director Henry's suggestion, which is that we reduce or increase by 20,000 the reduction in the set-asides for those 2 funds. And other than that, I just appreciate the public comment that we've had, and thank you for hearing my thoughts.
Mayor Morris?
I just have a question on what that proposal, out of the 2 funds or 1 fund? So where's that 220 specifically? Out of the capital fund or the?
I think Director Henry had suggested out of the second of the 2 funds, and
Capital Reserve Fund is what Director Henry suggested, and then Public Works Director Hunsaker suggested money out of the Deferred Maintenance Fund. Both are $1 million, but Director Henry's was out of the capital side.
So is that what you're saying?
I was suggesting out of the capital side, but I can be persuaded either direction.
Did you have anything else?
I have input with somebody else.
Okay. Counselor Chenoweth?
Thank you, Chair. I wouldn't necessarily disagree, but I'd like to see the 135 used up first before we start taking out of the CIP. And so start there, then go to the police chief's recommendation to take care of YCOM, and then the difference still remaining come out of CIP.
Can someone explain the 135? I'm not tracking that.
Director Henry, can you explain the 135,000 again?
In the current year, the revenues in fiscal year '27, in the proposed budget, the revenues exceed expenses by 135,000.
Page 39 gives a good layout of all that.
So to bring it back around, Sal's ask is 279,000. So how do you want to get to 279? You have that 135 extra in expenses. You have the 56K if you deferred.
And then the rest out of the CIP.
Yeah. Okay.
Mayor Morris?
So I'm going to go kind of with Chris or Counselor Chenoweth, that I would take 100,000 out of the ending fund balance, the 135, I'd take 100. 50 out of the capital reserve, because I think even if we build a new pool, we have plenty of things that are going to need some attention, and I hate to take it out of there. Go with Chief Wood's 4-month retention on that spot, keeping that spot open to pay for YCOM. And I don't feel like we can bring the library back at this time. And I also want to make sure that we understand that police did lose last year. They were given some money back, but they did lose positions as well. So it's not like they didn't have something taken away. And CDC did get a position this year as well, a GIS. And so there are those that did get some attention, but I think right now we need to hold steady with the library hours, or if they want to change a day that works better for the community, then that's certainly an option that could be looked at.
The position added for CDD was a development coordinator position.
Yeah. Thank you.
Counselor Tukolsky.
Yeah, could I ask, what was the value of deferring Chief Wood's position for 4 months, the monetary value?
I believe he said 56,000. And the YCOM delta is 53,000, going from the 10% we assumed because they had a 12% last year and an 8% the year before, so we budgeted a 10% increase. But their budget committee that met last week recommended to their e-board an 18% increase. So the difference between the 10% and the 18% is 53,000. The total difference is roughly 170,000 increase over this current year.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
When we're talking about the reserve, we're talking about the million set aside for future needs, not the million of active projects we want to work on this year. Is that correct?
Yes, they were saying the capital reserve project fund,
Okay.
not the deferred maintenance.
Project list for,
It's page 324 and page 108 and 109.
got it. And, no, nothing.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, 2 more questions. I'm doing math over here, having fun. What's the value of the ask on the pool returning again? Exactly?
147.
47. And then the library was what?
79.
79 or 78?
78,354 or something along those lines, so
Oh,
I'm going
you're
with.
getting detail
I'm going
over
with
here.
78.
And the pool's 147 and some change.
Counselor Chenoweth.
Thank you. Counselor Geary just reminded me of a question that I had asked on day one that I never got the answer to. Wondering if I could get the answer that regarding pool staffing and the tweak that I had asked about in regards to doing this potentially in a way that we don't need all of that staffing to still get open.
Josh spent some time into last week and has a very great presentation or information to pass along.
And my computer died like 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
We've got lots of chargers. While he's getting that set up, would it be okay if I tried to get back the numbers of all, Adam can get them in his head, but I'm trying to put them all on paper. So we had the aquatic center adding and I've heard multiple numbers, 147, 148. I had 148, 900 for adding it. You said
What's on that slide?
the 140. So the slide for the aquatic center.
Between 78 and 70.
78,354. And 12 cents.
That's impressive.
Okay, 147. So 147, 900, so 148.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use 148
Okay.
for the pool. The slide says 147, 886 for tonight, if we get down to the dollars, I'm not going to be able to. The
135.49.
the surplus number, however, is not a budget number in the sense that it's not a number that comes into any operations or amendments you can make. You can take it from fund balance, ending fund balance, but you can't use that 135. It's not a number you can use in any of your amendments or motions, so.
But if we spend $100,000 extra, it's the same as having.
It's the same as taking it from ending undesignated fund balance.
Could we just do a quick run through on the cost of the pool, the cost of the library, the YCOM increase, the deferral of the police, and the surplus?
I would love that. So for the aquatic center, I have 148,000. For the library for Sundays, we're using 78,000. For the police, we're saying 4 months staffing and 56,000 savings. For the transfer to emergency communications, we're saying 53,000. So that's the YCOM. And then there have been various talks about how much to reduce one or the other. We have a 220 on the balance, we have a 50 on the balance, and I believe we had a 200 on the balance as well. And the balance of the 135,049 and whatever we needed to make that even. And now Josh will answer the question on the aquatic center.
So I put together a few numbers. One of the questions, I believe, was if our full-time employees were to do some of those head guard responsibilities throughout the day. So if myself, we've got 3 full-time employees, myself, the recreation supervisor, and our management support specialist, which she runs the front desk. If myself and the rec supervisor were to spend 30% of our time in head guard position where we're actively in the chair supervising lifeguard staff, that would see a total savings of about 31,000 or about 0.8 FTE. The cost of us spending our time in those roles is about $67,000 in those 2 positions. We currently do spend about 5 to 10 hours each week just covering shifts. It's lifeguards come and go, and it's a hard role to fill at minimum wage, where we're asking a lot of our guards continual training and initial training and to be first responders in emergencies. So we still do fill those roles as lifeguards and supervisors. And then the additional cost of our management support specialist, spending 60% of her time at the front, splitting her time, which she does about half-time right now, trying to get her work done and working with people who are coming into the building and providing that customer service would be about 34,000. Another option that we could consider is closing from 9 to 11, Monday through Friday. It would have less of an impact numbers-wise. That would save about 1.3 FTE and part-time savings of 46,000, and would require about 15% of myself and the rec supervisor in the chair of our time, which is about $33,000 in cost of our time.
Councilor Peralta.
Thank you. What would be the lost opportunity of
Closer to the mic.
What would be the lost opportunity of reallocating those positions to essentially being head guard?
We've done a lot this last year. We've revamped our swimming lesson program. There was a swimming lesson program that was kind of passed down. We've put it into an actual written form that can be passed on and taught. So we've done that. We've revamped how we're training our lifeguards. The biggest thing, especially for our recreation supervisor, she spends a lot of time meeting these code requirements. I was looking at them today. There's just in the staffing, there's 6 pages of requirements from the Oregon Health Authority. Scheduling and training of staff is a huge part of that job, and to be on the pool deck in those hours, we would see a lot of mistakes in scheduling. It would be challenging to retain staff. A lot of staff retention goes into those hours as well.
Could I just add to that, Josh? Sorry, over here. Sorry, I just wanted to add that if we are taking management away from their duties as management, I think we all know that they're busy on a regular basis. So that means we're going to have to backfill. So either we backfill with more lifeguards and pay them at the rate of a lifeguard, or we're backfilling for those management duties.
Yeah, I mean, I understand you were asked to come back with these suggestions, but given your preferences, would you kind of stick with the original budget if we were able to come up with the money in order to save your workflow?
That would be ideal. One of our goals has been to increase our service levels and make the pool a more welcoming and inviting environment, and hopefully increase the revenue that we're bringing in as well. We're constantly looking for ways that we can balance all of that. We've been working with Geoff's team, and finding ways to potentially use that extra lifeguard staff to take over our janitorial services so that we're not paying for janitorial as well. So I mean, it allows us to look for those savings and to find ways that we can also bring in more revenue.
Mayor Morris.
Josh, if we build a new aquatic center, and possibly put it into 2 different spots, so like Newburgh has a wall between the 2 pools, would that affect this new rule as for staffing?
We would still be subject to the rule, which is the supervision. In the models that we're looking at, we would still have just one lifeguard supervisor who can see both those pools. So making sure that if there's a wall, there is a visual line of sight for both pools, so that head supervisor or head lifeguard can see and monitor the lifeguards, and then they would be responsible for walking around both.
So it could reduce that number, possibly.
It would still require, I mean, we would still need that head lifeguard on deck, which is the biggest number is having, because that hasn't been in place before, is that head lifeguard on deck all the time, open and close.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming back with that. I know that was asking you to do a bunch of work, and I appreciate the thoughtful answer. So my next question, I want to go back to this 135 number because you've kind of hedged in your answer. And so I just want to make sure I'm clear on what I see in the book and make sure I'm understanding this correctly. What I see in the book is we don't have a $0 budget. We have a budget where we have proposed revenues coming in and proposed expenses going out, and the difference between those 2 numbers is $135,000 for fiscal year 26-27. Am I seeing that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So, I would stick by let's make this a 0 budget, use 135 to whatever priorities we want to use that for, and get it to a 0 budget. It's not touching our reserves. And then whatever excess we need to get, we pull from the capital improvement.
Councilor Peralta.
Is there any reason to leave an ending fund balance?
Yes, or I wouldn't have proposed it. It is in preparation for the increases that are coming it has to do with rebuilding the excess that was budgeted to spend in the current fiscal year. And if you look at the trend, you can see that in fiscal year '26, with the ads that were added, we decided to take the ending fund balance down from that 2-month that we were originally proposed down to the 1.5 months, and we added all of these extra things. And so at the end, we didn't have a zero, we had a negative. And we ended up using the fund balance. And so what we're trying to do with this is get us back where we need to be and put some of that back and get the fund balance back to where it needs to be able to sustain us moving forward. And the rate of inflation, so if we just look at cost of living increases, for example, in the union contract and just across the board, those will increase, our personnel will increase faster than the property taxes will increase over the next 5 years. And so if we put some aside in the year we have now, that will help to offset the amount that they will get closer in the future years.
Thank you. That's what I thought. So how many months ending fund balance do we have, and what is your recommendation for a target?
So we have 2.6 months, and my recommendation is 2.6 months. The recommendation is always 2 months of a minimum. And to look at 3 years out at your projections and make sure that you're still solvent. So that's where the capital conversation comes in. If we want to continue doing the capital and we want to do it year after year, then we need to be able to set aside the money for the capital. Because that extra $1 million that we're talking, or the 800 as I've proposed, or 780, whatever we do with that, that is what's going to impact that ending fund balance, because it's not included in the expenses. So that 135 that we have left, that's before we take out the 1 million to do the set aside. So really, after we take out that 1 million, we actually have minus 865, if I can count in my head. So that 1 million in set aside is not included in the expenses. It's not an expense. It's just put in a savings account.
I didn't understand that.
So nobody's understanding that. So if you look at your total expenses,
Yeah,
okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't understand it when I read about it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, Committee Member Chisholm?
And we're talking about the second $1 million when you say it's not.
That is correct.
Okay. But the first $1 million is in the budget.
The first $1 million with all of the projects and how much they will cost and the deferred maintenance that we're doing in fiscal year '27, that is included in the budget. That's part of the expenses. That is there.
And that's the one, that Director Hunsicker made his recommendation out of the first $1 million.
That's correct.
Mayor Morris?
Adam, you want to explain it in layman terms?
So the 2-month minimum reserve is a standard that's best practices. Last year, you guys went down to 1.5 months. You still survived, but as well as the council policy that was passed a number of years ago calls for 2 months of reserves. And so the 2.61 months you see in this year's budget, I was actually trying to get it pulled up on my laptop so I could throw it up on the screen. But it gives us a runway to have a more sustainable outlook instead of just looking at this specific budget year right now in a vacuum, look 3 to 5 years out and see what that does on that fund balance graph. And so that's why the proposal is what the proposal is, of carrying more over than what you guys have seen in the last few fiscal years, as we wanted to take a longer range outlook, and instead of just thinking about the budget in this particular year, we modeled out a number of years. And then Katie built into that some certain projections, so like M&S having their 3%, there's a allocation in there for healthcare. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. It's a projection, it's a model, so those things can still change. So making decisions for this year that make those future out years even tighter, you're just making conversations more difficult to have in future years by having less difficult conversations tonight.
Yes.
So I guess I just want to clear it for, that we all understand. So the budget that was made, there was $1 million put deferred maintenance, it's in here. It was my understanding that 2.6 was in the budget to put into, or the reserve.
So I think
Or
you guys are getting the funds confused.
2.5 months.
So you have a few different things you've talked about tonight. You have the deferred maintenance list, which is $1 million that sits currently in admin and eventually will get made into a facilities fund.
Right.
We just didn't have the time or bandwidth to do that this budget year, so that could clean up some of this for you going forward. We have the $1 million capital reserve that we put $1 million into last year as an organization, so this current budget will have $2 million in capital reserve. And then you have your general fund reserves, which is the 2.6 months of operating expenses. So when we start the fiscal year July 1, but we don't see tax revenue come into the city until December, we have money to operate without taking out a TRAN loan through a third party.
So I guess I'm just trying to figure out where that 135 fits into all that. Because that's, I think, what's a little confusing. Oh, okay.
Counselor Chenoweth?
Okay, so now I've heard two different things. I've heard that money isn't real and that money is real. Which one is it?
You're talking about specifically the CIP, or the
Right, the extra
Capital
$1 million.
Reserve Project Fund, page 324, line item 9901-25.
Yes. That he said is sitting in the administrative account.
So this,
I get this. What I want to know, 2.6 months of reserve is how much money?
So that's on that page
Page,
in the financial overview.
Yeah, that's
page 39, I'm looking at that right now. Reserves, 1.479 million? That sound right?
That's how much is above, and the reserves are $6,340,761.
That's 2.6 months worth.
That is correct.
Okay. Then there's another million sitting in the administrative fund that is eventually moved to a capital improvement. Is that what you just said?
no, the $1 million in the administrative for this fiscal year's budget is all deferred maintenance, and it has the project list in there. That's the list that Jeff presented on Thursday night.
Okay, so that list is spoken for. Then there's another million. Where's that other million?
So the way fund balance works, at the end, there's a part of the budget that's called fund balance. That fund balance has multiple pieces to it. There's a piece that when we all talk about reserves, that on the graph there is the blue piece. In your book, and we're going to go down to the lines to make sure that this is very clear, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So in your book, on page 324 and 325, it says ending fund balance. You can see in there that we have 9901, 01, 07, 10, 25, 26, 90, 11, and then 9999. Right? All of those together make up our ending fund balance. All of those added together make up one whole stick on that graph. If you look at the green on the beginning there is the 547,000, that's your ARPA funds. So you're used to seeing that. So that's in that fund balance, but it's not money we can use for anything besides ARPA projects. Then you have the money that is from donations or from grants or things like that. On here, I've just rolled that in because it's so small, it's less than 50,000. So you don't see that line in here. That's line 9901-10. That's $49,000. It will be paired with another project that's grant funded. It'll be gone the next year. Doesn't impact our long term. Then you have 2 million. That's the line 9901-25. That is the line that we are increasing by $1 million each year. That is the piggy bank for future large capital projects, not the small deferred maintenance projects, but the future large projects. So if we have a big project and we need to match federal money, for example, and we have to put 5 million down, we'll have the 5 million set aside over time, and that's what we'll be able to use. So that's where the 2 million comes into play.
So that's where the second million is sitting.
So
it's real money sitting somewhere available to be used.
it's increasing the 1 million to 2 million, but it is not included in operating expenses. It's not budgeted as an expense. It's not appropriated because you're not going to spend it. The goal is to save it.
Right.
So,
Okay, I get that. But it's not also part of the 2.6 months of reserve either.
no, it is not part of the reserve.
So it is money sitting there to be used. We can't budget it, I get that, but it is actually sitting there. So it's not, it's actual real money sitting there, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Counselor Benner?
I think I'm leaning towards a combination of what Sal suggested. Chief Wood could use the deferral of a hire to pay for the YCOM increase. I don't quite understand it, but what Katie's saying about the 135 seems to make sense that we don't spend that money. I'm a little bit confused on that, which means that to get the pool and library open, we'll need to get, 100 and some odd thousand from the capital reserve. Or that would be
200 plus.
200,000, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, can you clarify your YCOM 4-month position hold? You want Chief to hold his positions open 4 months to pay for the YCOM deferral, or pay for the YCOM?
Correct.
Okay.
What I heard Councilor Benner propose was the chief funds a YCOM difference out of his position vacancy, holding it for 4 months. And the library ask and the pool ask is funded out of the capital reserve, not the deferred maintenance million, which would be about 220,000.
Right, and then we leave the 135 because Katie wants that, or says we can't use it because it's confusing and I don't understand.
You can do whatever you want as long as the majority votes it.
Okay, so it is 9 o'clock. People don't seem like really excited to comment more. Are we thinking we're going to make a decision tonight? Or do you want to keep going until we get there? Awesome, okay, I love that. But I don't know how long that's going to take. Counselor Tukolsky.
Yeah, I've been playing in Excel over here. I've solved all the city's problems. Yeah.
Yes, thank goodness.
Can I share my screen for a second? Does that work or not? I don't know how to.
Are you on Zoom?
Yeah, I'm on Zoom, yeah.
She might be able to.
And that was a joke, by the way. I didn't solve things. Just I wanted to show you what I was proposing. Definitely not, yeah.
Counselor Chenoweth, did you have a question while he's pulling this up?
I was just going to say, it sounds to me like we're all pretty unified on the 4 months to take care of YCOM. So if we could just knock that out and say we're all unified on that, and we can just end that part of this discussion and focus on the 226 and where we're going to go, 226, is that right? Yeah. 226 and where we're going to get that. That would be one of the components out of this.
So people don't keep mentioning it, you mean? Is that, because we're going to vote on it all at once. Okay, I guess, so just people bring up if they disagree with that in their comments. Okay, Counselor Tucholsky.
So for what it's worth, here you go. This is what I did. So you've got sales ask at $279,000. This is just a waterfall graph. I've proposed the account and the value that we're removing. So remove 152,901 from the capital reserve, remove 50,000 from deferred maintenance. You'll get, you'll have a positive from chief's deferral. I'm actually proposing that you remove the police reserve, the totality of that one. And then from that, you can pay the Wycom Delta of 53,000, pay for the library return of a little over 78,000, pay for the pool return, and it brings it back to essentially zero at that point, without touching those other numbers. That's my proposal.
Thank you.
So, Dan, you're proposing that we touch both the capital reserve and the deferred maintenance?
Yeah, but at different rates. Capital reserve is set aside for future. We can take a little bit more from that specifically, but the deferred maintenance, I don't really want to touch a whole lot of, so I only took 50 out of that. You can play with the numbers if you wish, but that's my proposal.
Mayor Morris?
I'd prefer not to touch the deferred maintenance because we have deferred forever. And if we don't do it now, it's just going to cost us more later.
Where do you take it from?
I don't agree with the total number, but if we did, I'd take it from the capital.
Take it from the 135, just give it
That's
to
where
me.
I prefer, but she didn't want me to.
There you go. 202,901.
Thank you, Katie.
Counselor Peralta?
Oh, thank you. I was just going to agree with the mayor's point that I think removing it from the deferred maintenance, because we had a pretty nice list of projects on that deferred maintenance, so I'd like to get those knocked out.
Okay, so take the 50 out of this one.
Well, we should vote on it. I agree with the mayor.
No, oh.
Just 50?
Oh, you weren't talking about
He's
pulling
talking
50
about,
out of it?
yeah, he's
Okay,
going
my
to
bad.
change the.
So Counselor Tchaikovsky, we have a position for you.
I don't know how to not share anymore. I don't
No,
use
leave it up,
Zoom.
leave it up.
I don't use Zoom at work.
Might as well
There you
leave
go.
it up.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on what is up there? How about the people on Zoom? Did either of you want to weigh in? I'll let Counselor Peralta make a comment while you're thinking about it.
I was just going to suggest, in terms of like sequencing through what we need to decide, we need to decide if we're going to put money back into the library in addition to the pool, because I heard at least one, the mayor thought that maybe it was too early to do that. And then I think that would drive part of the rest of the conversation. So if the group's in favor of adding back the library, then the conversation goes one way, and if we're not, then it goes a different way.
That's fair. So we'll do a straw poll. I know we love those. We'll do a straw poll about finding the $78,000 or $79,000 for the library. I can't even recall. Did we do roll call or we just?
No, just a straw poll.
Okay, so hands up if you support adding back the 5 hours of the library, I think it was.
I'm, out of prudence, I'm going to not vote either way for the library specifically.
We respect that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are they?
Yeah, it's both committee member Frost and Ernst.
Okay, 7, 8, and that's, do we count, is that just out of the people here? Okay. The math is hard. Okay, so we will continue with the discussion of adding the library back. Yes, please. Committee Member Chisholm.
Chief Wood, what would the advantage, well, there's no advantage, obviously, disadvantage of be eliminating the police reserve completely?
The disadvantage would be that if I needed to pay for those hours in that position for either court testimony time or hours worked, then those funds wouldn't exist.
I appreciate Counselor Tukalski's desire to not fund that. I think that I would lean toward keeping that line item in the budget, and would remove that from the 135, so that the number in the 135 would become, column would become 7453, so that we could fund the reserves.
So correct me if I'm wrong, that we had 0 in it last year, right? Wasn't that what it said for the reserve? No? Mayor Morris?
Didn't we talk about eliminating the reserve program?
The discussion was about eliminating the reserve going forward so that we were making no new additions to the program. People already in that capacity would still remain in that capacity until such time as they either left the program.
And is this one over here the only one in the program right now?
That is correct.
Okay. Are you resigning right now?
My concern, Mayor, and the reason why I want to leave it open is that that may be the case, but that doesn't mean in the future we won't have other reserves. And I think it sends the wrong message to zero out that account. I think reserves are a valuable resource, having ridden along with the reserve and seeing how they operate and the asset they provide. And so just sending the message that we want folks to be willing to do that is worth $20,453.
Committee Member Frost, I believe, has a comment. Is that true?
I was just going to suggest, could we reduce that amount? So maybe we don't take the whole thing away so that we still have that placeholder, as Councilor Chenoweth was talking about, but we don't leave the whole 20,000 something there. So maybe it's 10,000 or 15,000, but it's something.
Does anyone know which line item it is? I circled it, but I can't remember. Oh, I found. So is it on page 188? 188.
Yes.
So it was 0 last year.
No.
And this is the amended budget 2026. 0. Right? I don't know. It's a very small amount.
I'm just saying there's no budget in it right now.
Right. There's no, wait, what?
In the current year, fiscal year 26, there's no budget in that line.
But this next year, there's 15,000.
Correct.
Yeah, right. So we budgeted last year 0.
That's correct.
Okay. Counselor Tukalski, did you have something? Okay.
Also, 20,000 is a margin of error in the size of this budget. It is not worth spending time on. Either way, it literally is a margin of error difference.
Okay.
For the budget.
Fair enough. Counselor Peralta?
So is it accurate that then what we're really deciding between is whether or not we leave a fund balance of 135,000 or a fund balance of 60,000? It's just essentially how we're going to pay for what we've decided to pay for? So let's just make the decision between those two choices. Get out of here.
Okay.
Well, let's figure it out first.
So, anyone want to express an opinion on it? Counselor Chenoweth?
Here's my argument. At the end of the day, yes, we currently are going to, and accountant can, or financial director can plug her ears for a minute. At the end of the day, we are going to say only 60,000 is going to be our excess, right? But we know throughout the year that there's going to be vacancies, there's going to be other issues that are going to create some extra funds. So I see this as a nit not worth fighting over. That's why I say I think I can just vote for it the way it is, one way or the other. Let's move this along.
Okay.
I don't want to take it out of capital improvement is my big thing. That's what I'm trying to stop.
Got it. Okay. Counselor Benner? No. Okay. Well, I say, let's move forward with only leaving $5,000 there. If it's just a placeholder so that people know, but we had 0 last year.
You mean for the police?
Because isn't that what we're deciding, whether we're taking out of the 135 or the police salary and wages?
So you're suggesting reduce the volunteer or the reserve program by 15,000?
Mm-hmm. We didn't use it last year.
And then, okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a motion then.
Okay.
I'd like to, give me a second to do it.
While you craft that, Sal, can I ask a question of staff? Chair? Okay. He's writing, so he's really deep in thought. Just a clarification, on the whole notice of the hearing page, and I know you have to do a bunch of different things because we notice if it looks like we're closely heading to wrapping this up tonight and not needing Thursday, but we have to notice for the potential of all those. Our website says we accept online web forms until Thursday, the 21st. Are we still going to do that, or that's only you?
We're still going to cancel the meeting because we've had public comment tonight, and we've accepted the public comment, and then we'll have a motion to not hold the meeting on Thursday. So as long as we have the motion and it passes, then
To cancel the meeting.
we'll cancel it, because it's not a public hearing, it's just a public comment.
Got it. So but will the web form still accept things till through Thursday, May 21st? Or we don't need to because we're done?
I can send them out, but it won't make a difference to the,
I guess it'll just get forwarded on for then the council action at the budget, but,
right.
okay.
Okay, I'd like to move this year's budget with the following amendments. Reduce the police reserve by $15,000. Delay the hiring of one police position by 4 months. Add back the suggested day to the library. Add back the suggested day to the pool. And then take the difference between the 278 and the $71,000 that we just saved out of the capital reserve program. And approve the property rate of $5.02 and the debt property service property tax levy of 2.990528.
May I ask, that's the 50-cent adder, right? Okay, yeah.
That wasn't my motion. I thought we were okay with leaving, I preferred to leave the balance fund the way that Director Henry had suggested it, and you said you weren't.
Before we have a second, could,
Hold on.
Could we make sure the motion is
The math adds up.
Formed correctly?
formed correctly? I hear what you want to do, and if it's possible, I would like to attempt to say the motion that I believe you are requesting.
Can you put it up on the screen?
Not really.
You want to like the numbers up on the screen or like the verbatim of the motion on the screen?
I want to know, after he reads it, do I have to repeat it back like he said it? Because doesn't it, I have to say,
Let
with
her
the
say it.
following amendments. So if it was up on the screen the same way he said it, then I could say it exactly as he said it. Or can I just say, as proposed?
So I will touch my nose and hop on one foot while spinning. I love this part of the budget meetings. It's like, we can do this. We can get through this piece. Okay. I'm looking for the motion in my packet.
As long as it is substantially clear, you don't need to reread it.
Okay, so I can just say as proposed or as read
As
by?
moved, specifically including the amendments.
Okay, great. That's just what I wanted to make sure I had right.
So the motion, as I understand it, would be to approve the budget as proposed of $137,426,398 with the following amendments. Adding to the aquatic center personnel, $148,000 to allow it to be open all of the weekdays as current. To add to the library, $78,000 in under personnel to allow it to reopen on Sundays. To reduce police by $56,000 for vacancy savings, leaving the current FTEs the same. To increase, and this is one that you haven't heard, it's an accounting piece, to increase the transfers out from the general fund to the emergency communications fund by $53,000 to fund the YCOM payments. To increase the emergency communications appropriations in materials and services by the $53,000 for the payment to YCOM, to increase the revenues in emergency communications for transfers in from the general fund by $53,000, and to reduce the set aside for capital improvements by, and that's the number I don't have, by 211,000.
That sounded correct. The only thing I didn't hear in there was the proposed reduction of the reserve by 15,000.
And reduce the police reserve by 15,000. I didn't have it highlighted on my sheet.
But that reduction of the 15,000 is in the 211 number.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It'd be 226. If you're not touching the 125 and you're not touching the police reserves, it's 226. If you do the 15K in police reserves, it's 211.
That's only taking 50 out of the ending fund balance?
It took nothing.
That took nothing out of the ending.
And
Okay.
I'm not adverse to taking money out if we need to vote that way.
Yeah, I'm fine touching the 135 for whatever it's worth.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if it helps bring more unanimity to the board, I'm fine with making that change.
The whole thing, split it down the middle?
Speak into the microphone, please.
If we're pulling $50,000 or more, preferably, out of that 135, then yes, you get me to a yes.
So anything more than 50, so if we just take half of that, 135?
If you want to take 111 and then you're just putting 900K into the capital reserve instead of some weird number.
Works for me. Sal, would you take that friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment, sure.
Okay, Katie, one more time with feeling.
Okay, let's see if I can get it right this time. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the budget for the 2026-27 fiscal year in the amount of $137,426,398 with the following amendments for the increase in personnel services for the Aquatic Center of $148,000, increase in personnel services for the library of $78,000, decrease of personnel services for the police for $56,000, decrease in personnel services for police reserve of $15,000, increase of transfers out to emergency communications for $53,000. In the Emergency Communications Fund, transfers in from the general fund of $53,000 and increase of materials and services of $53,000 for the payment to Wycom. And finally, a reduction in the amount set aside for capital improvements from $1 million to $900,000, being a reduction of $100,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so quick question before I read this. Do I just say as read by, or do I have to say motioned by Counselor Peralta and amended by Counselor Geary?
That would be a good practice. By the way, that motion doesn't include the statement of the tax rate yet, which is also in your script.
Right, I'm going to read the script. Okay. It is moved by Budget Committee member Counselor Peralta and amended by Counselor Geary. That's how you wanted me to read it?
No.
No.
That's not necessary. Before the motion was taken up, it was amended.
Awesome.
It is just
Okay,
his.
that's what I was trying to get clarification on. It is moved by Budget Committee member Peralta and seconded by Budget Committee member Tukulski that the Budget Committee of the City of McMinnville has reviewed and hereby approves the budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year in the amount of $137,426,398 with the amendments read off by Director Henry. The committee has also approves taxes for the 2026-2027 fiscal year at the rate of $502 per 1,000 of assessed value for operating purposes and $2,990,528 for the general obligation bond levy in the debt service fund for principal and interest. Now we open the floor for budget committee discussion. Any discussion? Yes.
Because I know the public record will get cut off here. And I know I've been exceptionally quiet during this budget process, but I think that has to go with how well this committee has done this year. And I think that is directly due to the fact that our staff has done a remarkable job of putting this budget together in a very succinct way, obviously looking for every way to maximize what we do, and that was especially highlighted in the budget savings that we heard from Director Burke, and I think there was the other one, I forget exactly where that budget savings was. And so I just want to pass on my sincere, heartfelt appreciation for staff and also for this committee taking this responsibility as seriously as we all do. Thank you.
Any other comments? or discussion? Yes, Counselor Tukolsky.
Yeah, I wanted to call out, obviously, the directors of departments, like you just did as well. That's, it brought something that's been easy to decide, so thank you for the clarity. And also, wanted to throw a shout out to our city manager, Garvin. I think without leadership and just encouragement, it wouldn't have happened exactly that way, so I want to say thank you for that. And then I also want to address the public, not just the people in the room tonight, but people online, people on the streets, just our citizens. They've been pretty clear. They want the library, they want the pool, and I hope you understand we've listened to you. So I want to thank you for showing up tonight and everyone else for comments. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Claudia, can you conduct a roll call, please?
Committee Member Mon.
Aye.
Counselor Geary.
Aye.
Committee Member Frost.
Aye.
Counselor Cunningham.
Aye.
Committee Member Ernst.
Aye.
Counselor Tukolsky.
Aye.
Committee Member Chisholm.
Aye.
Counselor Chenoweth.
Aye.
Counselor Benner.
Aye.
Council President Peralta.
Yes.
Mayor Morris.
Aye.
And Chair Maxfield.
Aye. The budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year is approved with the amendments provided and approves the taxes for the 2026-2027 fiscal year unanimously. All right. Do you have any closing remarks?
Do we have to motion to cancel?
Yes, that's coming. But first it says I'm supposed to ask the city manager and finance director if they'd like to make remarks.
Just something real brief. Thank you to the Budget Committee and city staff for the time, preparation, and thoughtful discussions throughout this year's budget process. Your willingness to ask difficult questions, evaluate priorities, and remain focused on long-term organizational stability and community service is very appreciated. I especially want to recognize staff across all departments for the significant amount of work that goes into developing, presenting, and refining this budget. The collaboration, professionalism, and commitment shown throughout this process reflects positively on the organization and the community we serve. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Can I have a motion to cancel the May 21st, 2026 Budget Committee meeting?
So moved.
Chenoweth?
Second.
And seconded?
Second.
Tukolsky. So Committee Member Chenoweth moved and Counselor Tukolsky seconded. Claudia, can you conduct a roll call?
Committee Member Mann.
Aye.
Counselor Geary.
Aye.
Committee Member Frost.
Aye.
Counselor Cunningham.
Aye.
Committee Member Ernst.
Aye.
Counselor Tukolsky.
Aye.
Committee Member Chisholm.
Aye.
Counselor Chenoweth.
Wait a minute. Does that mean if we said no to this, that would force Victoria to actually have to be here for a meeting, right? Just kidding. Aye.
Counselor Benner.
Aye.
Council President Peralta.
Yes.
Mayor Morris.
Aye.
Chair Maxfield.
Aye. The May 21st, 2026 Budget Committee meeting has been canceled unanimously. There being no further business to come before the committee, I will now adjourn the Budget Committee meeting at 9:27 p.m.